Okay, so let's start with Facebook and its case study, which is by Faber Novel. And this particular audio recording is being made specifically for all the students because this is going to be part of your final exams. Now, to start off, let's talk about a little bit about what Facebook is. Now, the case study that you have, that is by Faber Novel, does not exactly have new statistics. And for that purpose, we'll need to go back to the internet and look it up on this website called Zephoria.com, which has some of these startup statistics. Now, before we move on with that, we need to understand why we're actually studying Facebook, why it's such a big deal. The reason is because Facebook practically has all the important ingredients of being an important startup, which has proven itself to be extremely successful. So, Facebook is pretty old. We know that, right? Now, this case study is from 2012, and in these slides, it says it's about 8 years old, which means that as of 2016, this same case study, which is now 4 years old, means that this Facebook is about 12 years old. So let's look at these statistics from Zephoria to try and understand why exactly Facebook is such a big deal. So worldwide, as of today, which is 2016 December, the number of Facebook users is over 1.79 billion. That's a billion with a B. And that is also important because it's a 16% increase year over year. I'm going to put up these same statistics link in the description, so you can look that up there. So 1.79. So let's round it off to like 1.8 billion. Keep in mind that the internet population of the world is over 3.4 billion. So this is a huge number. The number of likes generated as of May 2013 is over 4.5 billion, which is a 67% increase from August 2012. So just in a year, the number of likes that Facebook receives for different posts by different people, all of us, is over 67%. Point number 3, which is that 1.8 billion people log onto Facebook every day. Now, this is an important statistics because this means that Facebook has active users of 1.18 billion. I mentioned that the total number of users is 1.8 billion, but the active users that log on every day is 1.18 billion. Of course, kind of sari were princesses and all the angel boys and the heavens devils and all those idiots also show up. So people with multiple accounts are being not being considered, and those with inactive accounts, people who are dead, people who no longer use Facebook or have multiple IDs that they haven't accessed, is not being included. So 1.18 billion is a very impressive number. Now, this is an extremely fast growth. Why? Because this is over a 17% increase year over year, which means that every year over 17%, and this is from the last year, from 2015, 17% increase in this number. I repeat again, the total number of internet users in the world is about 3.4 billion, and the total population of the world is approaching 8 billion. So this is very impressive from that perspective. Then there are over 1.66 billion mobile active users. Now, mobile users are the ones that are accessing Facebook the most. Why? Because if you again look at the statistics of how many people use Facebook, 1.79 billion accounts. Of that 1.79, let's round it out to 1.8 billion. 1.66 billion are using it through their cell phones, something that has been predicted for quite a while now, ever since smartphones became common, which is 2007 and onwards. So this means that there are more people accessing Facebook through their mobiles, which becomes important because we will be discussing that when we go on with the case study later on. Now, we need to understand that this increase in mobile active users is much higher. This is over 20% increase year over year. So let's compare the number of mobile users from June 2016. Now, this was September 2016. From June 2016, it was 1.03 billion. So that's again a 22% increase within almost a year, actually less than a year. So on average, the like and share buttons are viewed across 10 million websites daily. What do we mean by that? We mean by that all the like buttons and the share buttons that you see in all the articles that you see across the internet, all the millions of websites that have this is what it's referring to. Now, this is a little old statistic. This is 2014. This is already increased quite a bit. And this is again impressive because this means that Facebook's integration with several other websites across the globe is increasing. And that's going to be discussed later on in the case. Now, in Europe alone, there are over 307 million people who are using Facebook. This is again an important statistics because people in Europe often use a lot of other social sites. Plus, you need to understand that even though Europe is one of the regions which would be considered the first world, there are still less people living in there as compared to the rest of the world. So 307 million there means that that's a hefty number. So Facebook is not just a US thing. It's not just a South Asian thing. It is actually a global thing. So again, the next statistic, which is that the ages of 25 to 34 are over 30% of the users of Facebook. This is again an old statistic. This is important. This is important because of the marketeers. This is important for the people who are running their businesses there. That over 30% of users on Facebook are from the age demographic of 25 to 34, which is us, all of us, me included. Okay, so 5 new profiles are created every second. So let's count it. One. So see, 5 profiles created right there. So you need to understand that the number of profiles being created. This is not talking about unique profiles. This is not talking about people having multiple accounts for whatever purposes, whatever idiotic reasons they may have. But understand that this is a lot of profiles being created. This means that Facebook has already gotten enough traction, enough speed, enough critical mass that it is a force to be reckoned with. It is no longer challengeable with respect to how powerful it has become. There is probably not a single social network, not even Google Plus, which is probably the second largest with a very, very small number of only 111 million users, that comes even close to this. No other social network has this number of users, or those who are constantly adding up to it. Now, Facebook's users, when if you break them down gender wise, you'll find that over 76% of them are female out of 100% of all females, and 66% males out of all percent of males. Now this is an interesting statistics. This is an interesting statistic because you need to understand that the number of females against the male percentage is going to be confusing. Why? It's confusing because a lot of people decide to have a different gender on Facebook. Yeah, all of those people born males turn out to be females on Facebook. Well, that's where this is coming from. So again, this is not guaranteeing the real world genders. We are just discussing that this is how people have declared their genders on Facebook. Now, the highest traffic occurs between mid of the week, and that too between 1 to 3 p.m. Again, this statistic is important. Why? Because you need to understand the number of people and the demographic of those people. We're talking about 24 to 35-year-olds. So those 25 to 34-year-olds are either studying or they're nearly done with their studies and have started their jobs. And it's middle of the week, which usually is the time when they have time. So 1 to 3 p.m. is, of course, the lunch break. So people who are working are the same as those who are free, and they'll be using Facebook. On another note, Facebook post at 7 p.m. will actually have more people clicking on it. And by post, we mean news articles and stuff. More people clicking on it than those that are being posted at 8 p.m. Why? Because that's dinner time and probably TV time. So understand that this is very important based on your time zone. This is very important for marketeers. This is very important of a statistic. You don't need to memorize any of these numbers that I'm talking about. You need to understand the trend. You need to understand why it is important for a digital marketeer, for any marketeer in this day and age, to focus on what exactly people are doing on Facebook and when. And this is important from that perspective. So on Thursdays and Fridays, the engagement rate is 80% higher. Why? What do we mean by engagement rate? Understand that engagement means when people actually open up an article and actually do something on it. They either talk about it, they comment about it, or they discuss it, they share it. They actually read the articles as opposed to just reading the headlines. And this is higher on Thursdays and Fridays because obviously that's the end of the week. People have more time, they're more relaxed. So this is very important to note. Now, there are over 83 million fake profiles. Why? Because, as I said, a lot of people like to do this. Apparently, people have a lot of stupid, useless time on their hands. And that is why this number is important. So understanding that there are 83 million. But then again, maybe this statistic is wrong. Maybe they're not that accurate. If you ask me, there are probably a lot more in Pakistan. But you get the picture. So the number of photos uploaded on Facebook is about 300 million per day. Okay, that is a lot. This is despite the fact that there is Instagram available, there is Google Photos available, there are several other, platforms and applications where people upload their pictures. People are still uploading a lot of pictures on Facebook. Why? The social aspect. They are not just uploading them, they are sharing them. And recall again, Instagram is actually owned by Facebook. So average time spent per Facebook visit is over 20 minutes. Now, unlike every other social network that you would have encountered, Facebook is different because people tend to use it in bursts. So usually a single usage of it is going to be about, on an average of 20 minutes. It's not the exact number. Understand, it's an average. It's an average because there are people who are going to be running Facebook as because they're running their business through it. There'll be people who will be using Facebook as a brand platform. There'll be people using Facebook like I do to communicate with students and friends and family, So understand that the usage pattern will differ. However, one thing stays common. Most of us use it in bursts. We use it for like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then we shut it off. We don't actually use it in an extended period of time like most other applications that we use, either we're gaming or even email. We do not use Facebook in that way. We keep on checking it like a knee-jerk reaction. We quickly open it up, we check up the notifications, we do our message, replies, we do our likes and shares, we quickly scroll through our news feed, and we shut it off. So the average use is about 20 minutes. If you recall, and if you look at the case study, which is 2012, it says that this number is about 18, I think it was 8 hours and 18 minutes spread across a month. Okay? So this is how it is. Now, every 60 seconds on Facebook, the statistics go something like this: 510 comments being posted across the globe, 293,000 statuses being updated across the globe, and 136,000 photos uploaded across the globe. Once again, this is all in a minute. Very important statistics. If you recall, we already discussed the Data Never Sleeps series of pictures that gives all these statistics about what happens in a single internet minute across since 2010 and onwards. You should look it up. It's called Data Never Sleeps version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and it keeps on going every year. Now, 4.75 billion pieces of content are shared as of May 2013 on Facebook, which is in itself is over a 94% increase from August 2012. So you can only imagine if 4.75 billion is the number of things that we share on top, whether it be pictures or articles or movies, clips or YouTube clips or whatever, you name it. That is just 2013 statistics, and that to May of 2013. Imagine the number today. There are no statistics given on this link, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Once again, no need to memorize these numbers. You just need to appreciate them. 50% of 18 to 24-year-olds log on to Facebook as soon as they wake up. Again, very important statistics. We don't open up the newspaper anymore. This new generation considers Facebook as practically their news feed. And I mean that literally. They actually open it up like a news channel. They actually go and study on it like a news channel. They open it up not only to read the daily news, but also to look at what is going on around in their circles, among their friends and their family. So this is the first thing that they do when they actually wake up. So if you do it correctly, if you actually use this to your advantage as a marketeer, you can actually use this as your greatest platform for promotions. I've already constantly been driving this to you guys that traditional marketing is practically dead. That we are going through the same kind of shift as we did when we were actually moving from the era of radio all the way to television. This is a much bigger shift, and we need to focus on how this can be leveraged by us marketeers and any businesses for that matter. So 1 in 5 page views in the United States occurs because of Facebook, and that's an important aspect. Most people are ending up on different articles because they actually see them on Facebook. So out of every 5 different articles that you find, you're actually finding one of them from Facebook, and that's an average. Again, that too is an important aspect, because this means that Facebook is not just being used for marketing, but also for marketing of information, of articles, of awareness to different products and different pieces of information being written across the globe. So it is also a platform to create more content and to share more content by different news agencies. And moving on. So then it also states in the same link that over 42% marketeers, when they were given a questionnaire or survey of sorts in 2012 by a particular marketing agency, they found out that over 42% marketeers said that they actually consider Facebook to be a very critical part of their entire business, which is again a very respectable number. That's almost half the people that were probably interviewed. I don't know what the total was, but that is an important aspect right there. So 16 million local business pages have been created as of May 2013. Now by local, they probably mean local in the US. Again, we can already see that. We can witness that in Pakistan as well, where a lot of local businesses are using Facebook as their platform of choice for commerce. So the important aspects, and the last one, this greatest summary of all, is that over 1.79 billion people use Facebook monthly, and that is compared to, say, WhatsApp, which has only 500 million, Twitter 284 million, Instagram 200 million. Even if you combine them all, and even if you add like Google Plus to it with 111 million, you actually still are not even close to the 1.79 billion people using Facebook across the globe. So keep all these important points in mind, people, because this is going to be the future. This is the present, and this will be even more important as you move towards in various fields, whether it be marketing, whether it be MIS, whether you name it. Facebook is important. Now, the other aspect of why we think and we are representing and discussing about Facebook being a giant is because, like any other giant, Facebook has acquired a lot of businesses. So let's look at that statistics right now. This is slide number 5, and if you were to actually be looking at the slides while we are listening to this. So let's talk about the acquisitions that Facebook has made. Now, they've already made over 27 acquisitions according to this case study, and it talks about 1.3 billion US dollars in total for these acquisitions, which includes Instagram for $1 billion in 2012, Snap 65 million 2011, Friend Feed, lots of other bigger names, lots of smaller names. But understand that one of the biggest acquisitions that any tech company has made in recent history has got to be the $19 billion acquisition of WhatsApp. And that is very important because we need to understand another aspect. WhatsApp is perhaps the most used messaging service of the entire world. Okay, that's very important because you need to understand that as a communication medium, that is a platform that is part of a bigger ecosystem. That's something that I've been trying to say from the very beginning of this course and will continue to reiterate in the other cases as well, is that it's all about creating the right kind of platform. Now, WhatsApp is important, and that's something that Facebook tried to do, was because it acquired WhatsApp not just because for the technological aspects, for trying to gain a lot of stuff that the WhatsApp team had already created so that they could incorporate it into Facebook Messenger, that they did later on, including the double tick thing, the ads thing, and a lot of media, plus a lot of fallback onto WhatsApp from Messenger, be it the ability to do video calls or even voice calls in a better crystal clear quality and stuff. But what is important is that WhatsApp was supposedly going to be used to integrate it with other services from Facebook, which is what they tried to do when they were trying to share data from WhatsApp to your Facebook. But that didn't work out because a lot of countries, including Germany specifically in Europe, banned that practice because Facebook wasn't really asking its users to do that. And there are chances that Facebook will have to either go back on this particular attempt, or they would have to suffer a lot of bannings from a lot of countries. This is similar to the problems that BlackBerry's Messenger had to face when it refused to comply with a lot of countries' requirements for not having encrypted messaging back in the day. Now, as I was saying, the most important acquisition was therefore WhatsApp. Now add that to the 1.3 billion already there. That's over 20.3 billion. That's not where it ends. You see, Facebook also acquired very recently a very important company that has already made a major shift. It's one of the companies that made the major shift into the virtual reality realm, and that is Oculus Rift. Now, Oculus Rift is a company that created the headset, the mounted set, which is based on virtual reality technology. The idea being that instead of having a screen in front of you, you will get to have a 360 view of a virtual world. Now, of course, combine that with Facebook's social net platform, and you know where this is going. I've already discussed multiple times the importance of Facebook's social VR, which is something that they discussed this year in 2016 in their F8 conference. And that is, again, a link I will post in the description that you should definitely watch, because this is the future. This is going to be the future of all social networking, where we are going to be moving towards a more virtual environment of people talking and doing things. Now, apart from these acquisitions, Facebook has also made some recent smaller acquisition. Many of these are not disclosed in the sense that they haven't really talked about how much they spent on it. But we do know that these are important acquisitions. Another area that Facebook is already moving towards is actually towards the AI and machine learning aspect. This is something Google's doing as well, because this, as I've also iterated multiple times, is the future. If you do not, as a company, invest into creating machine learning platforms, you will definitely be left behind, because that's what Facebook is all about. That's what the future is all about. Trying to understand what your consumers really want, trying to learn from it, and then adapting your platform accordingly. This is something Amazon's been doing too, with its creation of the Alexa assistant, with the creation of a stronger consumer-centric search results. This is something that Google's already pioneering when it's talking about making its AI learn about to play different computer games. For instance, it already is the champion against human opponent of what is known as the Go game, which is also known as the Chinese chess, and it has already started learning StarCraft 2, which is a strategic game. Now, this is important because Google is moving towards the AI aspect. This is something that IBM's doing, Google's doing, Facebook's doing, and so is Microsoft. So all of these digital assistants are moving towards creating a platform that will be AI based for all of its users and for all of its services, so that we can actually have a much more customer centric and a much more adaptive search results, and a much more adaptive content presentation. Now, this is of course something that we'll keep on discussing through the case. Now, moving on, this is important, this particular slide, from the aspect that it is also, Facebook is also one of the largest tech IPO that has ever happened. So they raised over $16 billion on the very first day of their IPO, which also means that their CEO is one of the top 10 billionaires of the world. He's probably the youngest billionaire in that list of top 10 billionaires, which is again a huge achievement, considering that, unlike what most people keep on pointing, he was not a dropout in the sense that he was thrown out. He chose to quit because he was, working on Facebook. So this is an important aspect. This is the same as Bill Gates, who also willingly dropped out of Harvard. They were both Harvard students of the computer science department. Now, the slide after that is an interesting slide because it talks about the fact that, like any other company, Facebook has, like any other giant company that we're talking about, which includes the GAFA companies, which is Google, Apple, and Facebook itself, and Amazon, and add that, in my opinion, Microsoft to it. Facebook is still not that big. I mean, when you look at the numbers, they just don't add up. I mean, you'd think that this company, which has made some huge acquisition that we talked about, I've already discussed the statistics. If you were to think about it, you'd be like, okay, so Facebook's probably going to be huge, but it's not. This statistic, which is actually pretty old, will still give you the idea. Now, Facebook's page views per month are over 1 trillion. Compare that to the number of page views of YouTube. That's only 100 billion. Okay. Now look at the other side of the slide. It says Facebook has over 3.7 billion in revenue per year. Compare this to Google's revenue per year in 2012, 37 billion. So that's a huge difference. That's basically, Facebook is only earning 10% of Google's revenue despite having much, much bigger page views. Why is that happening? We'll discuss that. That is, again, an important aspect. But if you look at the number below, it says 26 years old is the age, or average age, of a Facebook employee. Why is that important? Because, like the early years of Google, Facebook is acting like a startup, and that requires that your average employee age is as young as possible. Why? Because then you have a different mindset. Then you're more connected to your market segment. Then you're more connected to who you're trying to serve, and then you're more risk taking. Okay, so that's very important from that aspect. Now, moving on. So there's another way of actually looking at Facebook's quick growth, is to look at the number of employees, divide them by the total valuation. This is again 2012 numbers, and this is not a good statistic to actually judge a company because there are several companies that are more labor intensive, but this still gives us an idea. So if we were to take those 3,500 employees in 2012 for Facebook and we divided by their revenues, we'd get that the valuation for each employee is 30 million. Of course, understand that we are actually not approximating here. The janitor is not going to be earning, or is not as valuable as, say, the CFO, but you get the idea. So this basically means all of these statistics and these numbers, these are just mumbo jumbo for people. You're not going to be expected to memorize these, but understand that all of these point to one single thing. This points to the fact that Facebook's doing something right. This points to the fact that Facebook is remarkable, not because of the product or the way that it's being used, but because they as a company moved in the right direction, in the right way, in the right pattern from the beginning to the point of their maturity today and its future. And that is always the key that every business is supposed to focus on. It's not about the magical product. If you think about it, that's what happened in Amazon's case. It was not a magical product. Hell, the idea is thousands of years old. Retail. Okay, that's what it talked about. It was a very basic, very old, very tried and tested idea, and they just put it in a different context. That's it. That's exactly what I've been saying in business models. It's not about trying to create the most epic, new, crazy shit. Okay, it's about making this product, this solution to a problem that people want, and it's all about managing it properly. That's all it is. So moving on, let's talk about Facebook's story. Now, Facebook, while most of you, since you're mostly youngsters, you tend to think that Facebook is probably one of the first social network in history of the internet or the World Wide Web. Incorrect. It is absolutely incorrect. That is a oversimplification and a presumption, which is absolutely incorrect. So long before the idea of social networks, as we call them, social networks today, came into being, and that's actually a term, social network, the term has only truly been used ever since Facebook came on the surface. इससे पहले भी this idea was pretty common. Back in our early days of the internet, if I were to recall the very first time that I would have seen something on what you call today the internet or the World Wide Web, was this concept of what we call the bulletin board systems. Now, I'd recommend that you go up and Google this bulletin board system, or BBS, and you'll get the screenshots to actually see what it was. And I'm going to read out this definition from the Wikipedia page, and pay attention to this. It says a bulletin board system, or BBS, is a computer server running software that allows users to connect to the system using a terminal program. By the way, terminal program is any program that is basically console based, where you type it out like we used to on DOS. Once logged in, the user can perform functions such as uploading and downloading software and data, reading news and bulletins, and exchanging messages with the other users through email, public message boards, and sometimes via direct chatting. Many bulletin board systems also offer online games in which users can compete with each other, and bulletin board systems with multiple phone lines often provide chat rooms, allowing users to interact with each other. Bulletin board systems were in many ways the precursor to the modern form of the World Wide Web, social networks, and other aspects of the internet. So if you were to replace the term BBS from this little definition that I've just read out from Wikipedia, you'll suddenly like, dude, this is like Facebook. और आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे होंगे. That's exactly the point. Back in the day, before the World Wide Web happened, and if you recall, that was Tim Berners-Lee doing so in the early 90s, or to be precise, 1989 and 90. उससे पहले this is what used to be the case. ठीक है. So a lot of things जो को आप आज World Wide Web. By the way, do not forget that the internet and World Wide Web are not the same thing. World Wide Web is a network that runs on the internet. ठीक है. So bulletin board systems जो थे was the beginning of what you would, or rather the granddaddy of what you call social networks today. Only difference was ना उतना शशका होता था उसके अंदर, ना उसके अंदर कोई graphics होते थे, but this is what it used to be. So after we had cheaper dial-up network internet services and the Mosaic web browser, which was the first commercially available web browser, it actually became less known. So just bulletin board systems were then replaced by websites. So moving ahead, जो हमारे ज़माने में back in the school, जो हमारे ज़माने में सबसे common चीज़ थी was GeoCities. Now, what was GeoCities? What is GeoCities? Again, I'll recommend you go Google it, especially look at Google Images, and you're probably going to laugh your head off. But it may seem hilarious to you, but it wasn't hilarious to us. Back in our day, जिस तरह आज it's अजीब सा to think that someone would not have a Facebook page. That's like an impossibility, you know. चलो फेसबुक नहीं होगा तो ट्विटर होगा, ट्विटर नहीं होगा तो गूगल प्लस होगा, गूगल प्लस नहीं होगा तो इंस्टाग्राम जरूर होगा, समथिंग एनीथिंग, बट ऐसा हो नहीं सकता कि कोई सोशल नेटवर्क्स पे हो ही ना. मेक्स नो सेंस दीस डेज, राइट? सिमिलरली बैक इन आवर डे जब हम स्कूल में होते थे उस वक्त बड़ा पॉपुलर था was GeoCities, which was later bought by Yahoo in 99. So GeoCities was a very simple concept. I mean, अब बहुत simple और obvious लगेगा, but back in that time it wasn't. It was like the most revolutionary thing to us. It was a simple place. You would go to the website और आप उसके ऊपर अपना पेज बनाते थे. Not like a page that you have on Facebook today where you can actually communicate with people. No, this is very, very basic. Of course, understand we're talking about late 90s now. हम चाहते थे हम अपना पेज क्रिएट करते थे, अपनी प्रोफाइल क्रिएट करते हैं, and it will be like www.geocities.com/whatever your name is, okay, or whatever you've chosen the name of the page to be. अब उसके अंदर होता क्या था, जब वेबसाइट बना रहे होते, you would choose a picture, you know, a favorite color, a favorite movie, some profile picture of some kind, जिसको हम profile pictures वो कहते भी नहीं थे. It was like just our account or avatar or whatever you want to call it, and you fill it up with stuff, and that's it. There was no connection or adding of friends or comments, because remember ये web 2.0 से पहले की बात है, तो no pictures, no nothing, no comments, no liking, no sharing, but we could make changes in it. I mean, हम जाते थे, login करते थे, उसको खोलते थे दोबारा से. Remember, all of this was on dial-up internet, so it was uncool. I mean, it was, any kid who did not have a GeoCities page was like uncool. A lot of teachers used to use this for education. A lot of people used to use it to give out advice or stuff. This evolved into blogs. This is what evolved into social networks. So the very first thing that actually could be called a social network after the bulletin board systems, after the World Wide Web happened, is GeoCities, and that's exactly why it is important. है उसके बाद जो एक टाइम पीरियड बीच में आया जिसका एक्चुअली वियर्डली सो इस पीडीएफ में जिक्र नहीं है, इज ऑफ कोर्स ऑर्कट. नाउ ऑर्कट was not actually very famous in the rest of the world. Technically speaking, Orkut was more famous in India, Pakistan, and Brazil. And the funny thing is that because of the fact that it wasn't so famous, a lot of people think कि ये कोई random कोई अलग से company बनाया था. But the funny part is, and a lot of people did learn about it जब ये बंद हुआ अभी recently 2014 के अंदर, is that it was actually owned by and operated by Google, जो उस वक्त इतना famous नहीं था itself. ठीक है. So basically होता ये कि Google क्या the way that they work is that they have their employees are given what is referred to as 120 time, which is what 100% to Google when you're working there, and you have your own 20% time. You couldn't call it 80/20 or 120. Now, what Google does is the way that they work is that they actually give their own employees the opportunity that you can spend whatever time you have other than the stuff that you're assigned to do, other than the stuff that you've chosen to do, is that you would spend whatever resources Google has to create your own pet projects, your hobbies, whatever जो भी कहें आप उसको. बहुत सारे Google के projects, for instance the fact के suggested searches जो आती हैं, for the fact like ads आते थे आपके Gmail के अंदर, जो suggestions आते थे, आपके जो results आते हैं जब आप टाइप कर रहे हो तो as you're typing in results आ रहे होते हैं, all of these were actually projects by Google employees, different programmers in their spare time. So Google actually supports this, and a lot of good ideas have come from that. So similarly एक बंदा था जो वहाँ पे काम करता था, his name was Orkut Bukotin, ठीक है, he was a Turkish guy, and it was him who actually spent this same 20% time and created Orkut. It wasn't called Orkut then, मगर सारे जो उसके seniors थे, जो उसके managers थे, उन्होंने उसको convince किया that he should actually launch this, and launch this named after himself, and that's when Orkut was born. Now, because the idea of Orkut wasn't exactly new, it did catch on, लेकिन not as much as perhaps anyone was hoping. Okay, एक मेजर वजह ऑर्किड की पॉपुलैरिटी की ना होना वो ये है that Google didn't really take it all that seriously. I mean, they assumed कि probably this is not gonna catch on. So उन्होंने ना तो अपनी ब्रांडिंग को उधर इस्तेमाल किया, ना ही उन्होंने इसको को बहुत कंट्रोल करा, ना को बहुत ज़्यादा मॉडरेट किया. बट यू थिंक वॉज दैट इट वॉज पॉपुलर इन इंडिया, ब्राज़ील एंड इन पाकिस्तान. एंड वी ऑल रिमेंबर जिनके ऑर्किड के अकाउंट्स थे, you know, is that one of the major reasons you are point out करेंगे of why Orkut would have fallen from use is because there was a lot of pornographic material showing up on there. There was a lot of privacy issues. There was a lot of, you know, lack of moderation, जिसे हम कहते हैं. ऐसा लग रहा था कि जैसे बस बना के किसी ने छोड़ दिया है. And that's exactly why it didn't catch on. So it kind of slowly and gradually died out. ठीक है? But the thing is that despite it dying out, it was an important era. क्योंकि यही वो ज़माना है, अगर आप नोट करें तो यही वो ज़माना like 2007, 2008, when in 2008 when it became the most visited website in India and Brazil, is when Facebook was rising up, and Facebook was a reckoned force. I remember मुझे मेरे दोस्तों ने आके बोला था, and we used to use proxy servers and VPNs to actually access Facebook, because back in that day Facebook was not accessible from anywhere but the US itself. So if you would have already watched Social Network, the movie, which I highly recommended that you watch for the exams and for your general learning, okay, that's when Facebook became accessible to rest of the parts of the world, and it certainly caught on. Barhal. So that was the problem with Orkut, and weirdly so it's missing from the PDF. But शायद उसकी एक वजह यही है that it wasn't so famous from in Europe, and because ये PDF जो है Faber novel की is actually created in France. Anyways. So then there was another very famous social network, and that's called Friendster. Friendster को technically कहा जाता है as the first genuine social network. Of course, I don't agree, क्योंकि this is the same time period जो है ना Orkut का भी था. But बहरहाल, let's consider it because that's what the PDF is saying here. खैर, Friendster के साथ भी technical problems आए, बिल्कुल the same way that Facebook faced them. But the problem with Friendster, other than that, was जो मेरा ख्याल है, is that it's a time period. You need to understand that most of these products, and most of these applications and platforms, if they don't get released in the right time, and people are not ready for it, they don't catch on. For instance, the first tablet PC was not actually created by Apple, as most people incorrectly think. It was actually created by Microsoft, and you can Google it if you like. Microsoft created the first tablet PC in 2000, and a colored version of it in 2001, which used to run Windows XP. Problem was that the idea was something that the world was not really ready for. So it was a full 10 years before Apple even thought about the idea. But the thing is that most things जो इस इंडस्ट्री के अंदर आती हैं, if they're not released at the right time, and when the market is not ready for them, they don't catch on. That's what kind of happened with Friendster. It got released and there were a lot of problems. It faced a lot of technical difficulties, because that is a huge issue, and we'll talk about just after these first few slides, is scalability. Friendster just couldn't catch on. Friendster was just unable to handle the challenges of becoming from a small company into a big one, into increasing its ability to handle so much users. So it couldn't. So there was, and furthermore it had a lack of activity. वही मैं समझाने की कोशिश करूँगा. उस वक्त it was new, new content. Web 2.0 was something that was just catching on. तो इतना material नहीं था कि लोग उस पर share करें. जब तक कुछ share ही नहीं करेंगे तो it's practically useless. It's not just the website to go and chat. There were lots of other chatting applications. Back in our day, there was MIRC, and Windows Messenger, which you later on called as MSN Live Messenger. There used to be ICQ. There used to be Yahoo Messenger. So there was a lot of stuff. MIRC being one of the most commonly used ones. So you see, it was an IRC client. So you see, these things were already there. So इसलिए नहीं आते थे लोग social network पे, वो बातें करेंगे. So they needed to share content, which is not what happened. So the thing, another problem with Friendster was that Friendster was very restrictive. Friendster was different in this way from Orkut, like the exact opposite. जिस तरह Orkut तो बिल्कुल ही खुला खाता दिया हुआ था, Friendster की situation ये थी कि they were constantly being very controlling. You couldn't even have your own nickname. Like most people change their names on Facebook, you couldn't have done that on Friendster. So that was the problem. They also got an offer from Google to be bought, but they refused in some time around 2007, 2008. Maybe if Google would have bought it, maybe they would have merged it with Orkut. Maybe they would have started planning for Google Plus along with this, but apparently that didn't happen. So they got acquired in 2009 for 26 million. If I'm not wrong, they were acquired by a Malaysian company. Actually, they were a Malaysian company or was acquired by a Malaysian one. You'll have to check that up again. And now it's a gaming social network, so gaming platform of sorts. You can check it out. It still is operational. Then the third one, which is a very powerful force, or at least was back then, is MySpace. MySpace was like a mixture of what GeoCities was many years ago and what Friendster was trying to do. MySpace was a lot more of a free place. I mean, you were allowed a lot of freedom, and in fact, that was one of the reasons for downfall. Anyways, it was like a reaction to Friendster, because like Friendster was very restrictive, MySpace said, let's give people freedom. So MySpace, what you do is you create your account, you create your page. Only difference was it was more connected as opposed to what GeoCities was. So you something like it was like a evolution of what GeoCities was. But again, the problem was too much freedom. So what do I mean by that? There's nothing wrong with freedom. But the problem was that the pages themselves, jo uska structure hota hai, anybody could change that completely. Right? Like think about it. Now, when we go to Facebook, any person's Facebook page that you go up to is exactly the same. That's not what happened with MySpace. You could have your own designs. You could have your own colors. You could have your own bars, structures, everything. So that started deteriorating the overall quality of MySpace, the overall experience, because it's very important from a design perspective, from the perspective of users, that you have the same unified experience. That's exactly what Google tries to do with creating its material design, user interface, and that's exactly the usual criticism that Apple fans throw at Android devices because they have so many different user interfaces. User interface is extremely important, and that's something that MySpace was failed at. Plus, there was a lack of activity by users. Why? Again, वही बात जो मैं आपको पहले बताया, Web 2.0, okay, it was only growing at that point. So there was nothing to share on MySpace. अभी भी exist करता है. So MySpace actually ended up becoming a place कि जहाँ पे celebrities and actors and actresses and authors, they would make their own personal pages for a branding perspective. Mostly it was used for branding. And it still is being used. So from the last piece of information, 2011, it was acquired by a media company. Okay, so this is very important to understand, because these social networks are some things that were very powerful, and Facebook learned a lot from them. Like any good company, they learned a lot from them. So this is again an argument of the same thing, that it is not the first mover, and Facebook was never the first mover. It actually a follower. So it's very important to understand the balance. In many cases, the first mover gets the advantage if you're able to handle the challenges of any startup in the beginning. But in most cases, it's been seen that it's the mover, the follower, that actually gets the advantage, because they tend to learn a lot. But understand that this industry is vicious. This industry is harsh. There have been several followers who just couldn't keep up. Case in point, Google Plus. Google Plus happened a lot later after Facebook. I mean, it was in 2011. In industry terms, in tech terms, this is late. So even today, Google Plus just didn't catch on. So Facebook has already become a very powerful force, as I've already said so. खैर, आगे बढ़ते हैं. आगे बात होती है Facebook की importance. Why are we talking about it? We need to understand, like, it was a startup, but it was able to handle these three problems that we just looked at in these three companies. Number one, and that is very crucial, Facebook हमेशा से बहुत focused रहा है. Any good company, pick any good company in the industry, and you'll notice it's focused on one particular mission. Whatever it is, whatever mission, if say for instance we pick Google says we want to organize all of the world's knowledge to be, in a manner that it's searchable. That's essentially the mission and vision. And they've stuck to it. Amazon, the everything store. That's exactly what they've pulled off. And that's very important. So the vision or mission of a company and being focused on it is extremely important. It seems like random words. It's not random words. Those are the words that a company lives by. This is their reason to exist. So Facebook says that its mission is to make the world more open and connected. And इसी mission के ऊपर वो लगे हुए हैं. When they've just acquired Oculus Rift, वो जो social VR की बात कर रहे हैं, virtual reality की बात कर रहे हैं, in the same context, वो यही बात करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. When they've been trying to make sure that Facebook is the most commonly used, app on every single device, desktop, laptops, tablets, phones, you name it, that's exactly what they're doing. By creating Messenger, that's what they're doing. Instagram, same thing. You name it. I mean, Facebook Messenger, everything. They have to be there all the time. They're making you more connected, good or bad. That's how it is. So Facebook has always therefore been focused on this big idea of theirs to create this huge ecosystem, this platform that they will continue. I mean, only recently Facebook has announced Facebook marketplaces, where the idea is that they've created a specific, part of Facebook where people will be able to buy and sell products. अभी भी करते हैं लोग, but this would be designed specifically for this purpose. So this is important. Facebook payments, internet.org, which again is a huge problem because it has issues with net neutrality. But that is again something that they've been trying to do. Internet.org, for those who don't know, is actually Facebook's initiative to try to make internet free in a lot of countries, but it comes with a lot of problems. You'll have to read that up on your own. Now moving on, technology. So what's the other challenge they handle? Technology. You need to understand any startup, any company that you create is going to face a lot of problems. Again, refer to Social Network, watch that film, pay attention to it. Any company that you create is going to face problems with what is referred to as scalability. एक बहुत अच्छा project बनाना, बड़ा ज़बरदस्त idea लेकर आना is not that difficult. A lot of people have come up with it. Sustaining it and handling that huge demand that will come with it is the problem. Take a case in point. Take an analogy. आपने नींबू पानी का ठेला लगाया. लेट्स से रोज आपके पास 10 कस्टमर्स आते हैं, तो आपने एक सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ नींबू रखे हुए, सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ पानी रखा हुआ है, बर्फ रखी हुई है, एक ब्लेंडर जग टाइप चीज रखी हुई है, इसमें आप ब्लेंड करके उसको बेच रहे हैं. प्रॉब्लम इज खुले पैसे. प्रॉब्लम इज दैट इफ इट्स रियली गुड, मोर पीपल आर गोना कम एंड आस्क फॉर इट. व्हाट आर यू गोना डू व्हेन दैट नंबर इंक्रीजेस टू 20 to 30? Do you think people can handle it? Do you think you can handle it? Do you think you can be able to serve 30 people alone? What if we increase the frequency? What if we increase the frequency that वो 10 लोग बजाय 10 डिफरेंट घंटों में आने के वो एक साथ आ रहे हैं? Can you handle it? What if they ask and for other stuff? What if कुछ तीखा होगा आपके पास? What if you end up not having enough खुले पैसे? के आसपास दुकानें इन सब खुले लेकर आएंगे. You may seem these are funny examples, but these are not funny. This is a serious concern. बर्फ इतनी रख सकेंगे आप? इतने ग्लास होंगे कि आप एक साथ लोगों को सर्व कर सकें? That's exactly the kind of problems that Facebook had to face. That's exactly the kind of things that they had to go through. When they opened it up, when Zuckerberg created it, it was just an idea that he created, just something that because he had a fight with his girlfriend, he created. I mean, it was just a place where people would say yes and no, or hot or not hot, or on a picture. That was Face Smash. That was the beginning of Facebook. But eventually, when he started creating Facebook, it crashed the network at Harvard because there was a huge demand, and that was just one campus. That was just what. हमारी यूनिवर्सिटियां एक ही जगह पे फिक्स्ड होती है ना, वहाँ पे एक एक यूनिवर्सिटी के कैंपसेस आर स्प्रेड अक्रॉस द होल सिटी, होल कंट्री इवन. सो अंडरस्टैंड दैट वन लिटिल स्मॉल वेबसाइट which was running on Harvard servers crashed the network at Harvard because there was such a huge demand, because people were just open. And उस वक्त Facebook बहुत early stages में, we're not talking about like or comment buttons, we're just talking about people adding each other and putting up comments on their walls. That's all there was to it, and even that it couldn't handle. So over time, Facebook had to face those challenges. It had to increase itself. So this is referred to as scalability. Comes from the word scale. Economies of scale, exactly. So size, scale से मुराद है whether you can handle the same number of demand and the same number of people, coming to your service, to your product, to your platform, to your ecosystem, and actually using it, and you are able to handle it without, changing the structure and architecture of your business completely. If you're able to scale up and you don't need to internally completely change your business model, then that means you've got a good, sustainable, scalable business. And that's a huge concern with startups, because छोटा मोटा पे चलाना बड़ा आसान है. Example एक और ले लें, बॉम्बे बेकरी बहुत से केक्स बनाती है, कॉफी केक्स are amazing, but they have just one branch. The real challenge would come when they actually think about opening up more places. Can they maintain the quality? Will they be able to handle so much request? Will they be able to deliver it to the right places? Will it deteriorate? Lots of problems. So similarly to that, tech companies have the exact same problems. It's not that easy. Netflix ने जब अपनी 4-8 जितनी कंट्रीज में होते हैं उसके बाद 118 कंट्रीज के एक साथ लॉन्च किया था, 108 ऐसे कोई नंबर है. It was not easy and it still is difficult. That is called scalability. So Facebook was able to do it. दूसरी चीज, फेसबुक मुफ्ता सर्विस है, ठीक है, आप मैं कोई भी पैसे नहीं देता, लेकिन उसके बावजूद you expect it to work all the time because you're used to it, because people have stuff on it. You and I have stuff on it. It's the reliability and consistency that people are looking for in it. Think about it. When was the last time you opened up Facebook and didn't open up? Mind you, I'm not talking about your bad internet connection. वो आपका मसला है. हमारे तो इंटरनेट थका हुआ है, कौवा बैठता है तार पे and the internet stops working. ठीक है? That's not the issue. The issue is, did Facebook itself shut down? It did, but very few times. That is very important. इसको हम जब आप टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन फेसबुक एक्सेप्ट करो, उसमें ये टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन मौजूद है, इसको कहलाते हैं सर्विस लेवल एग्रीमेंट, SLA. And accordingly, Facebook was able to handle these severe outages that had happened in 2010, for instance, 2.5 hours, and that to only some parts of the world, not all everyone. Okay? Similarly, they've experienced some more difficult in 2010 and in 2012 several times, but still एक साथ नहीं. याद रखिएगा, इसका एक और एनालॉजी देता हूँ. अमेजोन की केस के अंदर अगर आपको याद हो तो बताया था कि तकरीबन $4 लाख की वो लोग से रेवेन्यू करते हैं 1 मिनट के अंदर, ऐसी कुछ नंबर था, इफ आई रिमेंबर करेक्टली. एंड थिंक अबाउट इट. सो इफ इट शट डाउन फॉर अ कपल ऑफ मिनट्स, इमेजिन दैट 4,000 yes, it was 4,600 unique visitors every minute. Imagine that. अगर 5 मिनट के लिए भी बंद हो जाए तो कितने ज़्यादा visitors, unique visitors, and from that I think it was $2 lakh worth of revenue per minute. How much loss Amazon would be facing? So that's exactly why you need to, and that is an e-commerce website. We're talking about a social network. जहाँ पे लोग marketeers भी हैं, advertisers भी हैं, businesses भी हैं, people have pictures there, people are communicating through it, people are contacting each other in disasters, during disasters, for birthdays, for celebrations, whatnot. You can only imagine how much pressure they have. Yet they're able to handle it. They did handle it. And again, watch the film. Very important part of the course again. Policy. So the third important thing that Facebook learned from these earlier social networks and from things like social networks, like in the case of BBS, is that they had to find a balance between being overly controlling and giving complete freedom. And that's something Facebook was able to do. Yes, Facebook did push some things down our throats. For instance, wall खत्म करके timeline लगाई उन्होंने. लेकिन उसके बावजूद Facebook has been able to keep a balance. You can change your name, but you can't rechange it back immediately. You have to wait a while. Okay, so there's several things. They've balanced it out, and that's very important. आगे बढ़ते हैं. जो perfect scaling strategies का मैं जिक्र कर रहा था, if you notice, we're on slide number 11 right now, is that Facebook was able to test itself. शुरू के अंदर सिर्फ एक बिल्डिंग में, even in Harvard और Harvard के भी उस कैंपस की सिर्फ एक बिल्डिंग के अंदर a few people are able to access it. That's when he builds it. So it's a low scale thing with a lot of density. Why? Because बहुत थोड़ी सी जगह पे बहुत सारे लोग access कर रहे हैं. That's, and obviously, and they all needed to connect. That's because there was a lot of hype. People were able to connect, and Facebook was able to handle that challenge. वक्त के साथ साथ he added more servers. So when it gained a lot of interest from people, a lot of people from other hostels within the Harvard campus in that city, उसके अलावा भी और लोगों ने डिमांड करना शुरू कर दी. Other universities, Stanford, Yale, MIT, a lot of people wanted to access Facebook, and he was able to do it. Zuckerberg, along with his friend, were able to do it. Okay, and the thing was that after that, when demand increased, not just in the US but across the Atlantic from Europe, he was able to grow because the word of mouth was actually faster than how fast he was trying to handle users. I mean, there were more people wanted to use it, and he had to handle them. He had to create the kind of scale that could handle this. He needed to scale up, and he did. Okay, for good or for bad, took money from his friend, cheated him later on. वो एक अलग मसला है, वो अलग फड्डा है. But he was able to do it. And not only that, you need to understand कि जब आप scale up कर रहे होंगे, you can't leave your original fans behind. You have to keep them engaged, you have to keep them involved. वरना तो fad है, fashionable thing है, अभी interest हुआ खत्म. You need to keep engaging them. You need to put on new features, which is the growth stage. So from 2007 2010, it was a growth stage. Okay, and this growth stage was very crucial because ये वो टाइम है जिस ज़माने में वो पाकिस्तान में आना शुरू हुआ है. अंडरस्टैंड ये वो टाइम है जब ऑर्कट का डाउन पीरियड स्टार्ट हो गया इन 2008 सॉरी हाईएस्ट पीरियड. उसके बाद ऑर्कट इज नॉट बीइंग considered the most important place for even our region because there was this alternative which was Facebook. It was growing up. And again, बहुत important point, जब it's these social networks and any kind of network, any kind of services, these any ecosystem that we're talking about is like a it's like an avalanche. ठीक है, जैसे एक छोटा सा कंकर आप पहाड़ के ऊपर से फेंकें, it turns into a huge snowball like they do in the Looney Tune cartoons, right? An avalanche. ठीक है, बिल्कुल उसी तरीके से यहाँ पर भी यही कॉन्सेप्ट है. दिस इज नोन एज द मेटकाफ्स लॉ. Okay, the Metcalfe law states that any network's usability or usefulness is n square, where n is the number of users. Think of a telephone. एक बंदे के पास फोन है पूरी दुनिया में, useless. दो लोगों के पास फोन है, two people can talk to each other. Four people can now talk to each other. It's 4 to the power square, which is 16. So similarly, you can make 16 connections. Think about it. So similarly, in this case, once Facebook caught on, once it was able to acquire these many people, once it was able to gain this many people, it was unstoppable. It is unstoppable right now. But as long as it keeps on engaging people, otherwise लोग छोड़ छोड़ के भागेंगे अगर alternative मिल जाएगा. Because remember, competitive advantages can be copied and other people will come up with it. It's your core competency and your ability to keep on creating new advantages that will keep you stable. भूलिएगा नहीं इस बात को. आगे बढ़ते हैं. So in nowadays, Facebook is focusing on what is known as the consolidation period or consolidation strategy, where once you've gained enough people, and it has gained a lot, 1.7 billion people, it will be about in continuously increasing and improving the features that people actually like, and making new features on and on. Okay, and getting ready for the new challenge and even creating new markets, which is what it's trying to do with the virtual reality thing. Oculus Rift is also what actually powers the Samsung VR. Okay, the idea of the Samsung VR and all of these virtual reality devices that you see that work with phones came from Google Cardboard. The platform was created by Google. It was Google Cardboard, but the idea of virtual reality was around. It was Oculus Rift that truly brought it to the mainstream. So, by the way, Oculus Rift is a company that was created by John Carmack, who created one of the first, not the one, but the one, 3D FPS game, first-person shooters, which was called Doom, the original Doom. So, John Carmack created that company. He created the Oculus Rift, and it was Facebook that acqui-hired that company. Acqui-hire, once again, if you recall, is a process of hiring a company because you want the talent from that company as well as the technologies that they have. It's a mixture of the words acquisition and hiring. आगे बढ़ते हैं. So 2006 onwards, जो खेल स्टार्ट हुआ, जो फेसबुक का जो असल चीज़ है, जो असल पावर है, was the news feed. This is something Friendster didn't have. This is something MySpace didn't have. This is obviously something GeoCities did not have. This is the key. News feed was the key, and it actually came up because Facebook acquired Friend Feed. Okay, and what was this news feed? अब यहाँ पे बड़ा interesting एक element आपको देखना पड़ेगा. The psychological aspect. The psychological aspect of these things is that humans are actually very narcissistic, and that's something Facebook understands. What's narcissism? Narcissus was this guy, legendarily, it's a Greek story, that this was this guy who looked at his reflection in a river when he was drinking water, and he fell in love with himself. And that's a fact. Psychologically speaking, all people, all of us, we love ourselves. Okay, we're crazy about ourselves, and we love to talk about ourselves and discuss ourselves and gossip and look at what other people are doing. So we're jealous of other people, and that's why we want to know about other people. So deep down, we actually enjoy when we see other people in pain. And deep down, we are very jealous when we other people are succeeding, and we like to share that out. And that's what Facebook actually is dealing with. That's what Facebook is focusing on. That's why Facebook, when once asked from Zuckerberg what he thinks of Facebook, he says Facebook is basically your daily newspaper. It's basically the newspaper of what your friends are doing every day. That's why Facebook is so interesting, because Facebook is not just a place where you talk to people, you just add them up or you comment on them. No, Facebook is a place which actually shows you the snippets of what your friends are doing, what they're saying, where they've been. So that's what Facebook does. It not only just connects all of us, because Friendster did that and MySpace did that too. And in one way or another, that's what bulletin boards did. But Facebook brings up all the updates जो आपके दोस्तों ने किए हुए, तो चीज़ें बोली हुई थी, जो बातें की हुई थी, and aggregates them. When by that I mean it summarizes them, brings them together and shows them like a news ticker. जैसे न्यूज़ चल रही होती है आपके पास जियो के ऊपर, दूसरी चीज़ों के नीचे न्यूज़ जो क्लिपिंग चल रही होती है, टिकर जिसे हम कहते हैं, and it shows that ticker in this vertical website design that we see today. And that's it. We enjoy it. We wake up, we look at what our friends are doing because that's human nature. Snooping around is our human nature. And it gives you a platform to talk about yourself so that your friends will see it. Because nobody in their right minds in the real world would go around showing a picture, carrying it around, saying, "Oh, like my picture. See, check out what I did. Check out what I ate. Check out what I'm wearing. Oh my God, I love my father." So nobody wants to actually do that in real life. Nobody is going to think of you as sane, but people do this on Facebook, and we appreciate it. We accept it. That is Facebook. This news feed is the actual concept because this is all user centric. It's all about users, what users want. So it's tapping into that narcissistic nature of humans. And that's very important for us to understand if we want to understand the real reason for Facebook to succeed. Moving on, Facebook also has this motto that it follows, okay, and which is product first. What do we mean by that? They make sure that they focus on the actual product, which is Facebook, okay, which is this platform. So Zuckerberg was of the was important for Facebook because he was this young guy, okay, about your ages, who was able to have this out of the box idea that people would like to connect. Out of the box इसलिए नहीं because ये पहले नहीं हो चुका, out of the box इसलिए because he thinks that now is the right time. I mean, he probably caught that on. Remember that if you watch the film again, this was not originally his idea. He stole this idea from the Winklevoss brothers, which were from the business department at Harvard. It was the fact that he understood that you need to have this idea but still have this managerial approach to it. He knew that it had to be balanced with this managerial approach to it. So he knew that he could spend the right amount of money and get the best programmers, but he also knew that you needed to have proper objectives. आइडिया बहुत अच्छा है, सब कुछ है, लेकिन जब तक वो सही तरीके से मैनेज नहीं होता, जब वो प्रॉपर बिजनेस प्रैक्टिसेस की तरीके से मैनेज नहीं होगा, इट विल गो डाउन द ड्रेन. सो रिमेंबर वंस अगेन, इट्स नॉट अबाउट जस्ट द क्रेजी आइडिया दैट यू कम अप विथ. यू हैव टू एग्जीक्यूट इट एंड मोर इम्पॉर्टेंटली सस्टेन इट. बहुत सारे तुरम खाना बिजनेसेस इसी तरह से बहुत अच्छे आइडियाज लेकर आए थे, बट सस्टेनेबिलिटी इज एन इशू. याहू इज एन एग्जाम्पल, ट्विटर इज एन एग्जाम्पल. बहुत सारे आपको मिलेंगे जहाँ पे बहुत अच्छे आइडियाज हैं बट एग्जीक्यूशन फेल्ड. Okay, and eventually the bad management led to the demise of those companies or the troubles that they're going through. दूसरे एक aspect ये important है कि Facebook is a balance. Okay, the founder is this young guy, not so young anymore, but it's this young guy who's trying to look at this idea, this mission of making a connected world. But he realizes that he needs someone more matured, someone with a lot of managerial and management sense and business sense, who's worked in a similar environment. So he hired Sheryl Sandberg. Who's Sheryl Sandberg? Sheryl Sandberg was the vice president of online sales and operations at Google. And one of the reasons that she joined Facebook was because Facebook was like a startup company. And the cultures of the work culture, the work ethic that is common in Google is also what Facebook follows. And that's why she shifted later on when Zuckerberg gave her the opportunity to Facebook, because she enjoyed working in that same vibrant environment, and she shifted there in 2007. So this is very important, from the perspective that Zuckerberg understood that he needed the right kind of team. Then there's another concept about how how Facebook is actually looked at from the voting rights. Now, Zuckerberg, like Bill Gates, owns over 56.6% of his company, which means he has the voting rights, the majority voting rights. And that's important because the CEO, in their opinion, in Facebook's structure, has the actual last say on key decisions. And he obviously controls the majority of the company, which of course gives him power, and there can be never be a hostile takeover. Good thing, bad thing, that's how it is. और बहुत सारे लोगों के आप नाम नोट करेंगे इसके अंदर, जिनको आप अगर आप वैसे गूगल करें, you'll find out that these are very important people in the industry as well as in Facebook who are also stakeholders in this. Anyways, आगे बढ़ते हैं. So एक और एक जो पॉइंट है जिसकी वजह से Zuckerberg is considered to be a very good leader is that he took a lot of advice, like people before him. Like if you were to look at Larry Page, Sergey Brin from Google, they always went to Jeff Bezos and other people to learn from them. Similarly, Jeff Bezos went to Sam Walton to learn from Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. Similarly, Zuckerberg knew this is like a tradition in the Silicon Valley. So Zuckerberg always considered Steve Jobs and Bill Gates both as his mentors, and he learned from them, even from the Google co-founders. So one of the few things that Zuckerberg was taught by Steve Jobs was that never to sell his company out, and that's something जो और भी लोगों ने उसको कही. This is important because Try and imagine yourself. You are in Harvard, okay, and or any other university, and somewhere in your sophomore year, you are able to create this amazing product that people actually like, and you're able to run it, and it's gaining ground, it's gaining traction, and everybody loves it. Lekin, here's the funny part. Um, Along comes this company who's a well-established company. People use it, and they give you an offer of 10 million US dollars. क्या मैं बेच दो कंपनी? आप सोचो जरा, you've dropped out of Harvard or your university, whatever you're imagining, and this company is offering you $10 million for this small little product that you've created, जिसके लिए आपके पास पैसे नहीं है अभी servers लगाने के, और and maybe it might get shut down, maybe it won't work out because you've seen a lot of them not work out. What do you do? Do you sell it out? So it's a huge gamble. This particular slide doesn't mean कि आप कभी भी sell out ना करें, because ऐसा भी हुआ है, याहू का एग्जाम्पल हमारे सामने, मल्टीपल दफा ऑफर्स मिली, मुख्तलिफ माइक्रोसॉफ्ट से भी मिली, बाद में गूगल से भी मिली, बट दे रिफ्यूज्ड, ओके, एंड दे डाउन द ड्रेन नाउ. बट यहाँ पर ये डिसीजन लेना कि नहीं, आई एम नॉट गोना सेल आउट, इट वाज वेरी डिफिकल्ट. सो इन 2004 उसको ऑफर आई व्हेन ही क्रिएटेड फेसबुक. ही रिफ्यूज्ड, एंड just 2 years later, Yahoo, which was a big name back then, it was doing well then, ने इनको फेसबुक को 1.6 बिलियन विद अ बी बिलियन की ऑफर दी टू बी बॉट आउट. And guess what Zuckerberg does? He refuses. Huge decision. Think about this. सिर्फ 2 साल के अंदर, okay? आपको 1.10 million से 1.6 billion की change आया ऑफर का. That's a huge number. I mean, he could have just bought stocks in Google and Apple and just lived off that. But he refused again. In 2007, he was offered, and this is very interesting, in just a year, the same number has grown by 100%. 1.6 billion in 2006, and in 2007, approximately 15 billion US dollars, not being offered by some small company. We're talking about Microsoft here, a giant, okay, is offering to buy Facebook for 15 billion in 2007. Recall again that later on, it was this same Facebook that in 2014 bought WhatsApp for 19 billion US dollars. This is very important, not to remember the numbers, but to understand the gravity of these numbers, of this trend. Okay. Khair, Zuckerberg refused that. And later in 2009, जब उसका revenue 777 million के करीब पहुंच चुका था, there was this investment company DST Global that actually invested $300 million into their company to delay the IPO, so that they don't have to give out their equity. And by 2011, the same company has a revenue of 3.7 billion. और अगर हम आज की तारीख की बात करते हैं तो अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 18 बिलियन यूएस डॉलर्स का रेवेन्यू जनरेट करती है फेसबुक. सो इट्स अ ह्यूज डील. ओके, इट्स नॉट दैट इजी. बड़ा आसान है अभी बैठ के बोलना, सी ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज सक्सेसफुल, बट ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड. We only read the cases, we only get to hear the names of the companies that did not fall apart. What about all the tons that you don't get to hear about that practically never made it? So try and understand that it is very easy अभी बैठ के देखना, जिस तरह हमने अभी से बैठ के देख के बोलते वेब वैन वाज अ फेलियर, सच अ बैड आइडिया, दिस एंड दैट, very easy to say, but when you're standing there in that time period, if you're running that company, it's not that easy to state. Khair, this is very important. So आगे बढ़ते हैं. आगे बात होती है that Facebook was able to tackle this very important balance. What is that balance? Facebook was able to balance itself between this dilemma that every entrepreneur faces. And that's something that you should study in your entrepreneurship. And that's something that I keep telling people about, is that you need to understand that there is a very precarious balance between the product and the business. Because once you create a startup, once you create a very brilliant business based around a product, the question is, what now? If you don't focus on that product, which is currently your cash cow, you die out. Where do you get the cash flow from? And if you start focusing on the business and try and create the future, you might be jeopardizing your product. But if you don't, eventually people will copy your product. Eventually people will be able to make a better version, because that's how it is. So you need to strike a balance between the product and the business. So you have to very, very carefully move, because eventually ye bhi time aega that the same entrepreneur, the one who created the business, they have to step away from it. So you have to strike a balance between the product you've created that has attracted so many people, and then create it into a platform, an ecosystem of business. And that's exactly what these other successful companies have done. That's what Google has done. That's what Amazon has done. That's what Apple's doing, that, or trying to do at least. And that's what Facebook has done. That's exactly what you need to do. The platform is the key. and that requires that you focus. You keep on your cash cow. Google has not given up on the Google search, right? And similarly, you don't see Facebook giving up on the actual Facebook element of it. Yet they're creating Facebook marketplaces. Yet they're creating Facebook Messenger. They're even thinking about creating a professional network similar to LinkedIn, based on the Facebook technology. But that is the key. You need to focus. You need to move on. You look at Google creating AI. You look at Google creating driverless cars. You talk about them creating internet for the whole world. Several, services. Why? Because it's all about the Android itself, operating system. It's about creating that platform, that ecosystem. You need to make sure that you've got this plethora of lots and lots of services and products that bring in more people. Because, and yet you cannot give up on your true original product, because that's your cash cow. That's where everything's coming from. So this is why this challenge being handled by Facebook is the real reason that we are sitting here and talking about Facebook right now. So Facebook's excellency therefore lies in handling these five classical startup challenges, which are: the first one, technology and user experience; business model exploration; business and ecosystem; the disruption; and long-term vision. And if you look at the diagrams, you'll be able to see what we're going to talk about. So let's start with each one. Let's start with the first one, technology and user experience. Now, Facebook's platform is very interesting in the manner that it has taken care of this. I mean, as I discussed earlier, it's all about narcissism. So you got a cover picture on Facebook, so you can talk about yourself, show whatever you're doing, or whatever favorite quotation you have, like I put up, and your profile picture. And there's a lot of narcissism involved, where you went, so you put it up, you checked in there or checked in that, or this is the movie you were watching, that's what you were doing, this is your opinion about this is your opinion about that. Plus it shows you engaging content on your own wall about what your friends are doing, what they were checking into, what they were looking at. Your timeline shows your milestones, your life, your life's work. It's all about narcissism. It's all about projecting, and people love that kind of stuff, and people are able to do that really well on Facebook. And that's exactly what it's focusing on. It's brilliantly did. Plus, there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that's helping you out to do this. It's bringing a lot of visual stuff. It's bringing a lot of stuff that is from several places, from whether it be aggregation of a lot of pictures and movie clips and stuff from your friends and from what you've done, along with a lot of apps that you use that are not part of Facebook but are running on Facebook, that are created by other companies other than Facebook that you run. Lots of games you play, lots of stuff you use, a lot of idiotic apps as well. But all of that is showing there, plus a lot of links that actually link to other stuff outside of Facebook. All of this put together is the perfect balance of user interface. It's not, by perfect I don't mean that you're not going to improve it. Perfect for the time being, perfect for this market segment. They're hooked to this. We are like addicted to this. We're like, there's a heroin addicts hote na, Facebook इस्तेमाल ना करे तो we need just one little pudiya. That's exactly what Facebook's been able to do, and that's very important. Furthermore, it's able to let people talk about themselves like a brand. It lets people talk about how they are, like they're engaging other people. And that's something that companies love. That's what they've used Facebook for. The same thing Joe MySpace was trying to do, Facebook has perfected. So you've got pages of Coca-Cola, you've got pages of celebrities and actresses and musicians and football clubs and TV shows and books and authors, you name it. They're all there. Everyone's there. Varia's there. Everyone's there. That's exactly what Facebook was aiming for, and it's done it really well. You don't buy Coca-Cola on Facebook, but it is engaging people there. When it makes you play games there, when it makes you be participating in competitions there, when it makes you like their pages, when it makes you like their posts, that's where the key lies. That's where Facebook is able to leverage both of us, the consumers and the product and services creators, the various manufacturers, the OEMs. So Facebook, accomplishes all of this at an extremely fast rate, and that is very important to look at. If you look at companies like Microsoft and Apple, it took them over 30 years to come to the point that they have. It took Google just about 7 to 8 years to do that. It took even less for Facebook to do this, and that is something that is going to be discussed in the Cafenomics cases as well, that in the future, the companies that get created are going to use the networks and platforms that these big giants have created and perfected, and are able to create that same level of success a lot faster. So Facebook has been able to do this by using three simple rules. Rule number one, they move fast, break things. That's a quotation from Zuckerberg himself. This is something that they don't do anymore. By that, they actually meant that, like a small startup, they create things. If it works, awesome. Doesn't work, screw it. We move ahead. But this is something that as a mature company, you really can't do. The analogy is pretty simple. Take an 18-wheeler and take a rickshaw. Both of them driving on the road. If the 18 wheeler needs to take a U-turn after a while, they'll need to start planning it for at least half a kilometer before it, because an 18 wheeler just can't just turn whenever you like. The rickshaw, which is like a startup, can turn wherever the batti goes. Okay, so जहाँ उसकी बत्ती जाती है वहाँ पे रिक्शा आराम से मुड़ सकता है. So it can make a last minute turn. So startup companies are agile. They can make a quick decision. That's what Facebook was able to do earlier. अब थोड़ी चीजें चेंज हुई हैं. Second, developers are individually responsible for the code that they write. This basically has a dual meaning. One meaning number one, the developers are responsible. They have to be. Two, they have a lot of freedom. They create code. They create programming stuff that actually goes into the stuff that actually creates the stuff that we use every day. So on Facebook, and they keep on creating new stuff. Abhi, like while I'm recording this, I was going through my Facebook. That's the addiction. That's the power of its addiction, is that you suddenly have this download link on Facebook videos. You've already seen that. A lot of people are seeing that. I don't use the Facebook app. I use it through Chrome. And only now I noticed that. So that's an interesting piece of code that some programmer out there has written and put it up, but he's responsible for this. And he's given this autonomy, this freedom to actually create it. Of course, with approvals from the managers and the CEO himself. Number three, and that's a point that I don't agree with, is Mark is always right. So they have this opinion. Now, this will be, in my opinion, the Achilles heel to Facebook, because this is the mistake that Apple did, because without having a good succession plan, without giving other new people delegated authority, you're going to screw it up, because eventually the entrepreneur has to step away. Eventually they'll die. Eventually they'll run out of ideas. And if the other person is not ready and is not willing to make new ideas, like in the case of Apple, or in the case of Microsoft, until Satya Nadella came along, you're going to screw your company up. You need to have a succession plan. You need to look at that maybe the CEO is not right. And I'll quote an example right here. One of the books that I read about Google, which is called How Google Works, had this incident where a new guy was hired at Google. And when a new guy at Google is hired, वो identifiable होता है. They're called nooglers, and they have to wear a cap with a pankha on the top, like a helicopter ka pankha. So every Friday Google has this meeting where ये नया बंदा भी बैठा हुआ था. उस जमाने में एडवर्ड्स का जो कुछ नया फंक्शन के बारे में डिस्कशन हो रहा था. सो द फाउंडर लैरी पेज एंड सर्गी ब्रिन, बोथ ऑफ देम वर देयर. सो उसने कुछ बात की, गालिबन लैरी ने, एंड द न्यू फेलो ही सेड, व्हाट्स योर मोटिव? Says, what? Google doesn't have a motive. Well, we have a slogan, right? And the slogan is, don't be evil. You're being evil. And imagine that. अब सोच रहा थोड़ी देर के लिए, this new guy, जिसको एक हफ्ता भी नहीं हुआ अभी आए हुए, and he's challenging the founder of the company, saying, you're wrong. He told the founder that आपका ये idea is evil. You're gonna cause damage. And कोई और company होती, कोई भी company, think about it, जूते खाता and he'd be thrown out. He'd be fired immediately, because तुम्हारी हिम्मत कैसे हुई मुझे challenge करने की? So in the Google book, and that book is not a technical book. It's actually a book about HR and organizational behavior. It's very important. You should read it if you're an HR person. It's How Google Works by Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg. So they call these people as hippos, and the hippo is an abbreviation for high income paid professionals. And the idea was that they're called hippos, is like hippopotamuses huge होते हैं, ठीक है? And when they fight, what they do is they ram you, दौड़ते हुए आएंगे, टक्कर मार देंगे. So they're huge. So similarly, these people like, मैं तुम्हें पता है कितने देर से काम करता हूँ, तो पता है मैं कौन हूँ, I've spent 10 years here, तुम्हें क्या पता, तुम आज के बच्चे हो. That's the attitude of these hippos. Okay, so the thing is, that's not what happened at Google. That guy argued and discussed with Larry Page about this thing for 2 straight hours, and after that Larry said to that kid, that new fellow at Google, you're right. And eventually it got proven, जो भी चीज़ थी, I don't recall exactly AdWords से relate क्या था, that he was right. So that's good work culture, and that's something I think that this statement, जो यहाँ पे लिखा है Mark is always right, is clearly showing that Facebook is not following, which may be and probably will be a huge problem later on. Khair, this is how it is. This is how they're doing it. So every week, all of these programmers, they create new stuff, and small or big, maybe कुछ चेंजेस हमें नजर आते हैं, वरना बैकग्राउंड बहुत चेंज हो रहा है. एवरी ट्यूसडे ओवर 12,000 डिफरेंट छोटी बड़ी चेंजेस जो हैं वो पर मंथ आती हैं, और एवरी ट्यूसडे, विच मीन्स एवरी 3,000 चेंजेस एवरी ट्यूसडे, तकरीबन 1.8 बिलियन लोगों को मिलती है. दैट्स अ ह्यूज अचीवमेंट. थिंक अबाउट इट. स्मॉल एंड बिग चेंजेस दैट आर स्टेबली ट्रांसलेटेड टू ऑल ऑफ दीज पीपल अक्रॉस द ग्लोब हु आर स्टिल कॉन्स्टेंटली. फेसबुक बंद नहीं होता क्या, ओ टेक्नोलॉजी शट डाउन, मेंटेनेंस शट डाउन. नो, इट इज कॉन्स्टेंटली रनिंग. Huge technical achievement. आगे बढ़ते हैं. So how does Facebook do this? This agility of being able to make this change, this rickshaw approach. How do they do the rickshaw thing? They do this by having two different versions of Facebook. One is the beta.facebook.com, the other is the facebook.com reviews. What is beta? Beta is a technical terminology जो हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं in computer science and in software engineering, where the idea is कि जो कुछ भी आप प्रोग्राम बनाते हो, सॉफ्टवेयर बनाते हो, उसकी एक अल्फा स्टेज होती है, which is like lots of bugs. So internally उसको टेस्ट करते हैं. फिर होती है बीटा स्टेज, which some of the bugs are removed, but some are still there, and then we let regular people use it so that they can find out problems and they'll identify them. They don't tell us, but by their behavior, आपने अक्सर सॉफ्टवेयर में आता है यूजर स्टैटिस्टिक्स, सेंड डोंट सेंड रिपोर्ट जो आता है वो यही चीज़ होती है. तो सिमिलरली फेसबुक पे भी ऐसे होता है. जो फेसबुक यूज़ कर रहे हैं लोग तो beta.facebook.com के ऊपर होते हैं, एंड जो प्रॉब्लम्स आते हैं वो बग्स रिपोर्ट होती हैं. दे गो बैक टू द डेवलपर्स एंड देन दे स्टार्ट मेकिंग चेंजेस, एंड वंस दे आर श्योर दैट द प्रॉब्लम्स आर गॉन, then they launch these changes on every Tuesday to facebook.com and we are able to use it. And then दोबारा से statistics or analytics जमा होती है that Facebook receives again, and the cycle keeps on going. So every week all of these programmers work hard and do this, and that's a major achievement from software quality and assurance point of view. So Facebook is not just about acting like a startup. It's not just about acting like a startup because, oh dude, we've got young people. No, you have to do it all through and through. It's about the process. It's about the way that you approach it. So I've already discussed Facebook is and has both cultures, and it's a very good integration of both. Zuckerberg, the young guy, who created Facebook at 20ish, he has that young vibrancy, the energy, and the risk-taking approach. While there are people like Sheryl Sandberg, who are one of the top 100 influential people in the world, who is still very powerful even at Facebook after she left Google and joined Facebook, and yet she leaves at 5:30 because she has a family to take care of and children to pick up. It's this balance of these two people. It's this balance of these two approaches that makes Facebook it is. Plus, Facebook has a very interesting culture. I mean, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but if you read this in slide number 23 and 24, you will notice that it says down here that Facebook has many of its offices named after Harry Potter spells. And this fun culture approach is something that Google does. There's something that good companies do these days because लोग काम जब ज़्यादा अच्छा करते हैं when they enjoy it, right? So plus Facebook की average age we've already discussed is 26 years old, which is very important. Why? Because companies की जो average age employee की होगी वही उसकी overall mindset पे नजर आएगी. Every company is a brand name, and every brand name when it evokes in our head, the brand image creates a personality. It has a brand personality. You think of a company like a person. So when you think of Facebook, you think of this young hip dude. You think of the role model is of course Zuckerberg. But if you compare this to IBM, वहाँ पे एक average employee age is 44. You have a very different viewpoint when you think of IBM. You think of this old, reliable, but glasses wearing, nerdy light kind of guy. That's the difference. That's different because that approach, that image is coming up in your head because of the way that the company shows itself to you. And where does it show it to us? Through the products, through the consumer-facing products, right? So that's very important. Then, of course, Facebook also has a very practical approach in its new features. किस तरह? कस्टमर फीडबैक. जब नई वाली न्यूज़ फीड आई थी कि जिसके अंदर टॉप स्टोरीज पहले आया करती थी, जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ हुई वाले, people didn't like it. Facebook changed it, and that's a very इंटरेस्टिंग एलिमेंट. बड़ा मुश्किल होता है किसी कंपनी के लिए कि एक्सेप्ट करना कि हाँ जी अब नया आइडिया जो था वो लोगों को पसंद नहीं आया तो लेट्स गो बैक टू दिस. इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डू दिस, बट दैट्स द साइन ऑफ अ गुड कंपनी टू एक्सेप्ट कि आपका ये आइडिया अच्छा नहीं था. देन नंबर इन द सेकंड वे दैट दे ट्राई टू डू दीज डील्स टुडे, जिस तरीके से ग्रैब ऑन वगैरह जो आता है ना हमारे, बिल्कुल इसी तरीके फेसबुक वाज एबल टू क्रिएट was trying to create this deals का thing where they were trying to make money by showing you deals of different products and stuff. People didn't like it. Facebook said ठीक है, people don't like it, people don't click on it, people don't appreciate it, let's throw it out. Similarly, there was a lot of constant improvement. किस तरह? फेसबुक को ये बात का अंदाजा हुआ कि जो उन्होंने ग्रुप्स बनाए थे वो नए पेजेस को, जो उन्होंने न्यू पेजेस का स्टाइल बनाया था, उसको कैनिबलाइज कर रहे थे. सो दे डिसाइडेड टू इम्प्रूव दिस ग्रुप्स थिंग सो दैट देर एबल टू डिफरेंशिएट. क्योंकि शुरू में जो ग्रुप्स का आइडिया था वॉज लाइक द सेम थिंग जो आज हम पेजेस बनाते हैं. सो देन दे रियलाइज कि नहीं, लोगों में पसंद नहीं. सो दे रियलाइज कि ग्रुप्स शुड बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट वी कॉल पेजेस. तो आपको नजर आता है ग्रुप्स का पर्पस कुछ और है, पेजेस का पर्पस कुछ और है. ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. दिस हैपन्स, इसके बैकग्राउंड में बहुत कुछ आता है. इसका मतलब है कि देयर इज लॉट ऑफ डेटा बीइंग कैप्चर्ड बाय देम एंड दे आर एक्चुअली पेइंग अटेंशन टू यूजर एक्सपीरियंस. रिमेंबर जो जेफ बेजोस ने कहा था अमेज़न के, इट्स नॉट योर राइवल्स दैट यू शुड बी वरी अबाउट, यू शुड वरी अबाउट योर कस्टमर्स बिकॉज दे आर द वंस पेइंग यू मनी. Good CRM is very important, and CRM is not about just इनका phone number मिल जाए ताकि हम sales कर सके. No, CRM is about understanding what people are using, what they're not liking, what they are liking about your product, so that you can make it better. That's what Facebook was able to do. फिर बात आती है फेसबुक की सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट एसेट की. वो क्या है? वो है सोशल ग्राफ. व्हाट इज सोशल ग्राफ? सोशल ग्राफ इज ऑल दिस रियल लाइफ कनेक्शंस, this connections between users and how they are connected to each other. And that's a difficult concept to understand because this is all abstract. बिल्कुल इस तरह रियल वर्ल्ड में सोसाइटी कहाँ है? सोसाइटी किसी डब्बे में तो नहीं रखी हुई. कहाँ है दोस्ती? किसी डब्बे में तो नहीं रखी. दोस्ती इज व्हाट? इट्स द कनेक्शन ऑफ पीपल. सिमिलरली फेसबुक की असल जो स्ट्रेंथ है वो is the digital database of all of these people connected to each other. एंड फेसबुक कहती है कि तकरीबन 100 पीटाबाइट्स का डेटा है ये, विच मीन्स दैट दिस इज ट्वाइस द अमाउंट ऑफ रिटन मटीरियल. ऑल ऑफ द रिटन मटीरियल जो दुनिया का, अगर उसको एक जगह जमा करें, उसको डबल करें, तब भी द अमाउंट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन फेसबुक हैज ऑन हु इज कनेक्टेड टू हु विल बी अ लॉट मोर. एंड दिस इज अगेन, रिमेंबर ये केस 2012 का है, अब ये बहुत बढ़ गया. So it is this Facebook's social graph, this information about who's connected to who, which gives Facebook its real power. And understand that this real power is translated into a huge power once Facebook is able to give access to this connectivity information to third party users and third party developers. इससे क्या मुराद हुई? इससे मुराद ये हुई कि Facebook जितने भी हम कौन किससे कनेक्टेड है, इस इंफॉर्मेशन को अगर अलाउ कर दे कि ये एक्सेस हो सके, आपकी प्राइवेट इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं, कौन किससे कनेक्टेड है इसकी इंफॉर्मेशन को अलाउ कर दे एक्सेस टू थर्ड पार्टी यूजर्स, थर्ड पार्टी डेवलपर्स, तो they'll be able to do a lot of stuff. अब इससे क्या मुराद है? इससे मुराद ये हुई कि अगर मैं एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, कोई चीज़ को लाइक करता हूँ, कोई चीज़ पे कमेंट करता हूँ, माई फ्रेंड्स सी इट, एंड दैट अलाउज दैट थिंग दैट आई लाइक्ड टू become aware in this from the perspective of my friends. And that's what it does. And that's what Facebook calls open graph. So Facebook allows access to this social graph using an API. What is an API? An API को समझना बड़ा आसान है. Read it the other way around. It's the interface. It is the interface that allows programming between applications. So it's application programming interface. What is an interface? Anything that connects two things. So अगर Facebook चाहता है कि बगैर अपनी internal information दिए हुए वो दूसरे third party developers को, एप्लीकेशंस को, गेम्स को अलाउ करे कि वो आपके सोशल कनेक्टिविटी डेटा को यूज़ कर सके, हाउ विल इट डू इट? इट विल गिव दोज थर्ड पार्टी डेवलपर्स एक्सेस टू अ सेट ऑफ टूल्स विच इज़ नोन एज एन API. इसकी एनोलॉजी ऐसी होगी जैसे कि मैं एक मशीन बनाऊँ, उसके ऊपर खास किस्म का प्लग बना दूँ, प्लग का स्विच बना दूँ कि जिसमें आप कनेक्ट करेंगे तो यू विल बी एबल टू टॉक टू माई मशीन. दैट्स एन API. ठीक है. और इसकी एक और एनोलॉजी, हम गेम्स खेलते हैं कंप्यूटर पे इंस्टॉल करते में, कॉल्ड सेट ऑफ ड्राइवर्स कॉल्ड DirectX. दोज आर APIs. Okay. Anyways, so APIs are very common. So what Facebook did was it allowed access with the user's permission, with the user authorization that's clearly written here, for accessing the social graph, so that these third-party developers, these other companies that give a lot of their content on Facebook, are able to access users' data with their permission and publish stuff there on their profiles. How did this work? This works by where every time you put up a link on your status update and it shows up, and when someone clicks on it, it actually takes them to that website. That's where it happens. It happens when you go to a website, और बजाय इसके कि वहाँ पे नया यूजर नेम अकाउंट बनाए, अपना पासवर्ड बनाए वहाँ पर, it gives you the option to connect with Facebook through the connect with Facebook button. How is that happening? The minute we click on it, Facebook says, are you allowing access to the website? Yes. And then automatically उस वेबसाइट को आपके बारे में, क्योंकि आप अलाउ कर रहे हैं, आपके बारे में आपकी फेसबुक की इन्फॉर्मेशन जा रही है, and vice versa. Facebook is suddenly becoming aware that this is some new thing that you're using, which lets Facebook learn more about you. याद रखिएगा, all of these online services and products where they are free, we are the product, because our information is the currency that these companies are paying each other. And this is exactly why they're all there, because Facebook, if anything else, Facebook is the world's largest constantly running real-time marketing survey. It is running constantly because that's where it learns about us. So the whole idea is that this open graph is able to give all of these third-party developers this power. So once this thing caught on in 2010, this like button happened everywhere, all across the internet. You'll see websites with like buttons. The minute you click the like button, you're allowing this information कि आपने ये article पढ़ा और आपने इसको like किया to be shown into your Facebook because you're logged into there. And that's where this third party thing comes in. Plus, ओपन ग्राफ 2.0 के बाद दिस लाइक, अभी तो ये लिखा हुआ था फला बंदे ने फला चीज़ को लाइक किया. नो, लेटर इट वाज इवन मोर ग्रैनुलर. यू कुड स्पेसिफिकली से दिस पर्सन वाज लिसनिंग टू दिस पर्सन वाज वाचिंग दिस पर्सन वाज लुकिंग एट दैट और वाज वाचिंग दिस वीडियो. मोर डिटेल, मोर एक्सेस. अगेन मैं दोबारा दोहरा रहा हूँ, दिस इज ओनली आफ्टर यूजर परमिशंस बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट यू आर डूइंग व्हेन यू से yes when you're logging into a place with Facebook's credentials, or when you're liking an article where you're already logged into Facebook. All of this then leads to this other thing. And what is this other thing? This other thing is the edge rank. Similar to how Google has page rank and ad rank, Facebook has edge rank. What is edge rank? इसको understand करना बड़ा आसान है. Facebook basically maintains information about each user's likes and dislikes. How does it do this? It's created these, think of it like a Excel sheet, where every sheet is about one user and every column represents the yes and no, the likes and dislikes about a particular topic. So think about that there's a column called Coca-Cola, there's a column called Android, there's a column called Game of Thrones. And so when every time a single user posts something about some topic, जैसे कि यहाँ पे example दिया हुआ है, when I say a user A posts some article or something about Coca-Cola. Now let's say that this person A has two friends, friend 1 and friend 2. Now friend 1 actually doesn't like Coca-Cola, he's a Pepsi fan, so he ignores that post. So what happens when he ignores that post, the edge rank about Coca-Cola for this person goes down. It's noted as in losing 1 point, while the other friend who liked that post of Coca-Cola, for that person the edge rank of Coca-Cola for that person just rose by 1 or 2 or whatever the number is. So using the same logic, information about our likes and dislikes is being gathered by Facebook, is being captured by Facebook. Again, without even knowing it, without even realizing it, because we are the most honest when we're online. People are able to, at Facebook, are able to understand us. एक बंदे के बारे में information नहीं है तो खुदा के लिए paranoia निकालते that they're collecting data about us. No, we are doing that. We're letting them have it. This actually happens every time you fill a survey form for someone. This is exactly what Facebook is doing. As I said, Facebook is the world's most gigantic real-time marketing survey platform. That's what it does. So over time, once more times this person A ignores stuff about Coca-Cola. I'll take another example. I'm an Android fan, right? Everyone knows that. So if I keep on posting, liking posts about Android and stuff, what happens is, after a while, that's all I'll see on my Facebook, walls. So that's like the blue car syndrome, right? जैसे होता है लोगों के साथ, oh they're posting some depressing stuff and suddenly they realize यार मेरे आसपास मेरे सारे दोस्त depressed हैं. But that's not true. What is happening is Facebook is understanding that this is the kind of stuff you like, and eventually it is actually showing you the same kind of stuff. And similarly, on the other hand, once someone doesn't like a particular post, they no longer see it. But this creates a problem. And this is creating a serious problem that has been discussed. I've actually pointed it out when we were doing our second case study about the paid search wars. This creates what is known as a search bubble. In the case of Google, this is called the search bubble. What happens is if you keep on searching about the same thing, then and Google's learning from you, you're becoming your personalized search engine, eventually that's all you'll find. Let me give you an example. If you were to be logged into my account and you'll be making a search for Game of Thrones, you'll actually see posts about the book before you see the post about results about the book before you see results about the TV show. Why? Because I'm a book fan. If you were to go to my computer and look for a Dark Knight, you'll see stuff about Batman and the search results coming up on the top results rather than a chess piece which is black. You know why? Because Google knows from my past searches and my past behavior on the internet, because I'm signed into that Chrome, what I like and do not like. And other than its 200 factors, it is also ranking is based on what I like and do not like. Now this results in me only getting results about the same kind of stuff. Okay, it's like it's like you'll only get the same kind of political early opinion articles when you're searching for a topic. You'll only get the same kind of image results. So by same kind, what happens is over time you don't get to see the other side, you don't get to see the other opinion. So Facebook at least has been trying to solve this by these days. अगर आप नोट करें, अगर आप एक आर्टिकल पोस्ट करते हो तो it immediately shows you suggestions of other articles right below it. अगर 4 आर्टिकल्स का सेशन दे रहा है तो 3 उनमें से सेम सपोर्ट में होंगे जैसे आपने लगाया है. One of them will be the opposite, because what EdgeRank system is trying to do is trying to see if your opinion about that thing has changed, so that it could learn from it and act accordingly. Okay, so this EdgeRank is not specifically special in the sense that this is something Facebook use karo. It's being used by Google as well. It was used by Amazon. Every time you open up Amazon, how do you think it knows that whatever stuff you're searching for, other customers also search for this, or things that you like will also if you might like this as well because other customers liked it too. Customers who bought this also bought this. The same thing happens in IMDb, which is Internet Movie Database, which by the way, of course, is owned by Amazon. Same thing, same idea. This is the machine learning element that you'll see very commonly on these kind of platforms. Moving on. So before going further, let's review these concepts again so that you don't confuse them. Newsfeed, as we know, is the ticker tape, is the vertical ticker tape where everything that your friends are doing is aggregated and shown to you. Timeline is basically your own actual page, which was originally called the wall, where you see all of the stuff that you've done, highlighted, all the milestones. Social graph is the graph of all of it's the visual way of representation of all the connections between people on Facebook. Open graph is basically the APIs and the access that Facebook gives to third-party developers to this social graph. And the EdgeRank is the ranking system. It's this ranking system that calculates how much a particular person likes this or does not like a content. So it's like, as it stated, it's the relevancy coefficient. If X is the brand or the article or the topic, then the number written beside it represents whether or not a person likes it, how much they like it. So 5 times this or 10 times this about each person. That's the EdgeRank. So moving on to the second part here, which says business model exploration. So let's look at the business model exploration. We've already discussed the key figures, so I'll go over it. This is slide number 31. I'm not looking at it, but the important part is the revenues. In 2011, this was 3.7 billion US dollars. Right now, it's only 18 billion dollars, which means about $4 per user per year, increasing from 2004 to 2011. But in 2009, it was the first time that it actually became profitable. Imagine this. We are saying that it makes revenues. Please remember there's a difference between revenues, because that also is not removing the operational costs. But after you remove that, you get the profits. So the profits were just 1 billion in 2009. That's only $1 per year per user. And that's not a good number. Why is that the case? Because Facebook's majority business is advertising. So they get out of the $3.7 billion of revenue that they were creating in 2011, over 3.2 billion was from advertising, same as Google. Okay, similar to that. And yet there were other stuff, payments, through Facebook payments, people pay for stuff, advertising ke alawa, there are a lot of other things that they do. But uske bawajood, it was only making $1 billion in profit. So 3.2 billion from advertising and 17% of growth there, as it says, and 550 million from sale of Facebook credits, which is the payment that people pay for different products that they're using with it. It's like a currency that is off Facebook. Okay, so it doesn't issue its currency. It's not a financial institute, but what you do is you have dollars, real world dollars, and you actually translate them into Facebook money. So if this was the case, then Facebook immediately thought, ठीक है यार, अगर हम advertising ही करनी है, तो who best than Google to copy? So that's what they tried to copy. So we know that the earlier era of advertising that we still have remnants of is the print, TV and radio ad. And how do they work? They work through the CPM costing method. And people, आप लोग हमेशा confuse कर रहे होते कि it's cost per it's click. No, CPM never has any click. You don't click a radio ad, you don't click newspaper, you don't click TV. Okay, CPM is cost per mile, and mile here is a Latin word which means 1,000. So this kind of advertising was about every 1,000 impression. M here can mean impression, or you could think of it, or the correct terminology is mile, and this is Latin word which means number of times, 1,000 number of times that it was shown. Mile is MILLE in this case, not LIE, okay, which would be the distance, which this isn't. So this is how it used to be. So 1,000 times that something was printed, and say agar akhbar 10,000 chhapte, to that is 10 multiplied by 1,000 times. So you'll pay accordingly. That was until Google started. After it copied this from Overture, if you recall, we've already done that in our case study. In case study number 2, is that Google implemented the CPC costing method, which is cost per click. Every time you click on an ad, that's when they charge. And that's where Google earned all of its money, its entire fortune. It still is earning it from it. However, and then there were several other performance-based advertising models like CPA models, the cost per acquisition, where you actually make some actions, and that's when the advertiser is charged. So this cost per click method is the most commonly used method, and that's what Facebook said. Let's copy this. Let's do this. It'll work for us. Why would it work for Facebook? Think about it. And this is slide number 34. Facebook said, dude, look at it. हमारे पास ट्रैफिक है, लोग आते हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल करते हैं, बिल्कुल इस तरह गूगल सर्च यूज़ करते हैं. फेसबुक इज द मोस्ट कॉमनली यूज वेब पेज. Say Facebook is the number one visited website, and Google search comes next, and so does Wikipedia. We have performance. Why? Because, dude, we got so much stuff. We got rich ads. We can create, multimedia ads. We got video. We got pictures. We got mixture of all that. We have a lot of targeting options. Facebook, as I already mentioned, is a huge database. As of today, it has 1.8 billion users. So a lot of data. We could target it. कौन सा age group, कौन सा demographic, कौन सा share, कौन सा मुल्क, कौन सा time period. किस किस्म के likes and dislikes के लोग. I mean, do you want to target people who like comic books, or those who like movies, or those who like a particular book, or those who like a particular type of operating system, or those who prefer one football club over the other, or who are part of one religious group or the other. Anything. You could target it. And number 4, the tools. Facebook not only has a lot of information who to target, but also has a host platform called Facebook advertising. So no problem there. Yet ये सब होने के बावजूद, after you look at the numbers in 2011 and 12, the click-through rate, which is basically the statistics that tells you कि कितनी दफा आपने ad दिखाया और कितनी दफा click हुआ, on an average overall Google का click-through rate 2% है. आप बोलेंगे तो कुछ भी नहीं है. Think about it. 100 दफा ads दिखाए जा रहे हैं मुख्तलिफ प्लेटफॉर्म्स पर, 2 दफा क्लिक हो रहे हैं. Compare this to normal traditional banner ads जो Google के अलावा लग रहे होते हैं, 0.1%. That's it. And compare this to the very abysmally pathetic number of Facebook, 0.05%. It's horrible. One would be like, ये क्या हो सकता है? Exactly same situation. They're using the same platform. They have a lot more users. We've already discussed बिल्कुल शुरू के अंदर केस के YouTube से comparison के अंदर trillion page views, और फिर भी ये हाल. That's because that's the key. You must understand, just because a particular concept works for one company doesn't mean it will work for the other too. You can't just copy your competitor and assume that will be the key to success. So why is this the case? Why is this not happening? Despite ye ke the revenue per minute of Google is therefore 0.06 per minute in US dollars 2012 in 11 की बात हो रही है. Yahoo की 0.02 डॉलर्स पर मिनट है, और अब तो खैर Yahoo का सत्यानाश ही हो चुका है. Facebook का सिर्फ 0.0022 per minute है. Abysmal. That's when Facebook realized that this is not going to work for us. We have to figure out a different solution to this problem. That's when Facebook created and invented what they call as social advertising. No, this is not about charity. This is what they call, the technical term would be social network advertising. How does it do it? How does it actually make it happen? ये भी ज़हन में रखिएगा, और ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. स्लाइड पे लिखा है, अचानक से एक दिन जादू का आइडिया नहीं आ गया था ज़करबर्ग को. दिस इज अगेन अ वेरी कॉमन मिसकंसेप्शन दैट पीपल हैव कि ओह कोई टेक्निकल आइडियाज ऐसे आते हैं, कोई दाढ़ी वाले बाबा आते हैं, सफ़ेद दाढ़ी वाले जाके ख्वाब में बोलते हैं, और दे गेट दीज इंस्पिरेशनल आइडियाज. दैट्स नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स. Most of these technological marvels actually happen by making small iterations, small achievements. That's when you actually reach it. बनाने वाले को उस वक्त नहीं पता होता है कितनी great चीज़ बनने वाली है. That's fanciful nonsense that people talk about afterwards. So similarly Facebook पे भी ऐसे ही हुआ था. They learned it step by step. How did they learn it? So one need to understand that Facebook is not a social network. आप कहेंगे ये क्या बोल रहे हैं सर, पागल हो गए. Facebook is actually the network of how everyone is related. Pay attention to this very minute difference. Facebook is not a social network. It is actually a network of how people are related. Let's think about it. When you meet a friend, what do? अब क्या करते, खड़े तो नहीं रहते, शक्ल तो नहीं देखते ना उसकी. You talk about something, you gossip about something, you share some stuff. It's all about what you talk about, all the content that we share with each other. That is why Facebook understood Facebook is not a social network, it's a social media network. It's the media that creates that social connection, just like in the real world. Society is created because we're all sharing resources, we are sharing time, we're sharing stuff, we're gossiping, we're talking. That's exactly what Facebook is. Facebook is this digital content platform where people are exchanging all this stuff. That we're liking stuff, we're talking about stuff, we're sharing videos, and we're sharing music, and we're tagging each other. That's what Facebook understood. And they said that this is it, this is the key. This like button that we've already talked about is in millions of websites in the very beginning is what changed everything. They realized in 2009 that we could comment and make status updates and do photos, becoming this like button became even more important. And these days we know that it has a lot of reactions now, but detailed specific reactions with it. This is Facebook's way of collecting more specific information. It's not about whether you liked something, it's about how did you react to it. So that helps them learn more about us and about our interest in those. अभी आप ईयर एंड वीडियोस रिव्यूज जो आ रहे हैं उसके एग्जैक्टली आपको नंबर बताएंगे. आप हैरान हो जाएंगे कि आपने कितने चीज़ों को लाइक किया और कितनी चीज़ों पर सैडनेस शो की है या एंगर शो किया है या वाउनेस शो की है, वट एवर. दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. That's enriched. That's, and imagine that this is data about 1.8 billion people that we're talking about. So in 2010, becoming a fan of a page was replaced by the same ubiquitous like button. The minute you press like on a page, you suddenly become a fan of the page, don't you? क्योंकि उसकी सारी notifications और updates आपके पास आना शुरू हो जाएंगे, आपकी wall पे नजर आना शुरू हो जाएगा, आपकी news feed के अंदर. And then this same like button, and this is where it blew out everywhere, is that this like button started appearing on all the websites that we could see, all news articles, all new, interesting pages. In fact, ये हमारी vocabulary का हिस्सा बन गया, liking a page. So every time we click the like button, suddenly Facebook learns about you, and suddenly it's posted on Facebook that you like this and that article because you're signed into Facebook. And everybody signed on Facebook. At least half the internet population is 3.4 billion internet users in the world, and 1.8 billion already are Facebook users, out of which 1.66 million are using this through their mobile phones. These are all the stats जो हमने शुरू में Zephyrya.com वाले discuss किए थे. So applying the same like button to brands and to their pages suddenly changes this landscape even further. Yahi social graph is humongously important. Now when I go and like a L'Oreal ka page, or when I go and like the Coca-Cola ka page, or when I go and like the Android page or the Google page, suddenly Facebook learns more about me, and that brand learns about me, and that brand is able to use this. And not only that, but here's the fun part. Every time that when I like something on Facebook, that same something is known to all of the people who are friends with me. So every time I'm liking something, I'm actually indirectly recommending it to all my friends, because the minute I like something, it starts showing up into my friends' newsfeed, and they're able to discover new stuff. So in 2011 alone, 2.5 million websites started using the like button and starting to have the like button. There were 50 million likes every day in 2011. And the average user who was like this, doing this like thing back in the day, was 34 years old. And there were about 2.4 times the average amount of friends of his were liking the stuff that they were sharing. And 5.3% times more of they were clicking on these other links that were being posted of stuff on Facebook. So there are lots of examples that actually, gained a lot from this like revolution. There was Gawker.com, जहाँ पे लोग articles होते, तो they actually were able to have more people because of Facebook, over 200% more. NHL, which is National Hockey League of the US, 92% more articles on this website were read because of Facebook. कितनी ऐसे आर्टिकल, बिजनेस इनसाइडर फॉर इंस्टेंस, एंड कितनी ऐसी वेबसाइट्स है जिनके ऊपर अब आप जाते ही इसलिए बिकॉज यू सी देम ऑन फेसबुक, यू क्लिक ऑन इट, जियो टीवी की हो चाहे किसी की, यू क्लिक ऑन इट एंड यू एक्चुअली एंड अप ऑन दोज पेजेस. NBA, which is of course the National Basketball Association in the US, वो कहते हैं कि number 2 resource, I mean other than Google search, people actually come to our articles, to our page because of Facebook. So this is what it is. It is this like ka viral loop. This is on slide number 43 if you look at it. So a person, alpha, actually clicks on a link on an article on because they saw it on Facebook or they saw it somewhere else. The minute they click on the like button, after they read it, they click the like or like button, and suddenly the like button appears on all of his friends. And यहाँ पे उन्होंने एक average number दिया 139. That's the average number of friends that every person has. Suddenly now that article appears in all of those 139 people's page, walls. And let's assume for a minute that all 139 actually like that article. Then suddenly all of their 139 friends end up seeing it. And then this article expands and spreads around exponentially. That is what Facebook understood. That's what Facebook realized. That's the key. And if you move on to the next slide, that's what happened. So you don't just like anymore with Social Graph 2.0. It's about watching a particular video on Dailymotion, reading a particular article on Business Insider or The Guardian or The Washington Post, playing a particular game like Farmville on Zynga's platform, and listening to particular music of a particular artist or from that album on Spotify or on SoundCloud or on YouTube, or doing this or checking in that. That is what this like button was about. So what was like 1.0 is now was now like 2.0, because this like has just suddenly turned into details. So this open graph 1.0 is now open graph 2.0, and suddenly a lot more people are able to find these new things. आपको बहुत सारी चीजें पता ही इसीलिए चली हैं, बहुत सारी apps, बहुत सारी services, because other people have liked and shown those articles indirectly or directly on their news feed, which has shown up on yours. So how powerful is this? In the case of Dailymotion, which is probably the closest rival, which is much smaller, but that's the only rival of YouTube, वो ये कहते हैं कि तकरीबन 55 मिलियन वीडियो व्यूज हमारे पर मंथ होते थे. हमने ये लगाया, this like button के साथ कनेक्ट किया, and suddenly within 4 months we had a 10% increase, and that's a huge achievement. So that's an example right there. So Facebook is now, what it's doing, it's making money out of this like वाली चीज through what is known as sponsored stories. So every time that Facebook के पास कोई अगर आता है और वो कहता है लाइक तो वो लोग कर चुके जो मुझे पेज, उनके पास तो नजर आए गए मेरे पेज के अपडेट्स, अगर मैं ब्रांड हूँ कोई, बट व्हाट इफ आई वांट टू शो इट टू मोर पीपल. सो इफ दे वांट टू शो दैट सेम न्यूज क्लिपिंग और दैट न्यू आर्टिकल दैट ब्रांड हैज पोस्टेड ऑन देयर फेसबुक पेज टू अदर पीपल, they'll have to pay Facebook for this, so that is then shown to those people who have not yet liked the page. आपने अक्सर देखो boost this post, that's essentially what you'll see. A lot of articles as sponsored stories in your news feed. वो इसीलिए आ रहा है because those brands have paid, those Facebook pages have paid Facebook to show those news articles to your news feed by targeting you. Again, that's where the like button is happening. So sponsored stories की एक छोटी सी यहाँ पे केस दिया हुआ है. They're giving an example of Starbucks. They're saying, let's take an example. If Sheryl Sandberg were to go to Starbucks, and if Starbucks wanted to promote it, so let's say Sheryl Sandberg went there and had a coffee, so obviously she'll go and like it and check in, and now it's only going to show on Starbucks page, and therefore will be shown on the news feeds of all the people who've liked the Starbucks page or have liked Sheryl Sandberg and therefore are following her on Facebook. So but obviously ये तो H rank की वजह से आएंगे, but what about if they want more? So अगर यहाँ पे देखते तो it'll reach about 16% people without the use of the sponsored stories. But if Starbucks wanted, and that's what they will want obviously as a business, they want to show more people about this, because dude, Sheryl Sandberg आई थी हमारे कॉफी पीने, so if they want to show it to more people, they'll pay some amount to Facebook, and now this will become a sponsored story. This will start showing up in the friends of friends of friends of those people's news feeds कि जिन्होंने पेज को लाइक किया हुआ उनके फ्रेंड के फ्रेंड के फ्रेंड के पास नजर आना स्टार्ट हो गया. दैट्स स्पॉन्सर्ड स्टोरीज, दैट्स द की. सो रिमेंबर, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली लाइक द डिफरेंस दैट वी स्टडीड अबाउट. EdgeRank or Open Graph or Facebook Connect is all about engaging content. It's all about the stuff. If it's interesting, people will be there. Remind you of something? Of course it does. Search engine optimization. That वहाँ पे भी यही था ना. Optimizing your page, making it better so that it is ranked higher in the organic search results, as opposed to paying for the keywords, so that when someone searches for something, organic result तो आएंगे, उसको तो आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते. गूगल उसके पैसे थोड़ी लेता है आपसे, वो तो 200 फैक्टर पे जज कर रहे हैं उनको. बट इफ यू पे देम फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर कीवर्ड, देन योर एड्स विल शो अप above the organic search results as well if you bid for them right. That's the whole AdWords thing. So वही चीज यहाँ पर sponsored stories है, and they remember that's the part of search engine marketing. So very equivalent to it. So same idea. So there's nothing new. जो मैं पहले भी बोल चुका आपको. It's all about making it work for you. Very few things are really new. So it's this word of mouth that changes everything. So these people, once you make engaging content, जब आप अच्छी चीजें रखेंगे अपने पेज के ऊपर, तो people will automatically speak well about you. They'll talk about you the way we do. हमें अच्छा content मिलता है, we immediately share it. That's the key. आप एक अच्छी lots of Zaid Ali है, Danish Ali है, कितने सारे और comedians हैं, BB की Vines and all that. Why do we share that content? Because we enjoy that content. It's engaging. Brands competitions लगाते हैं, share this on your wall, share this with enough friends, and you'll get this, you'll get a chance to win this. क्यों करते हैं लोग? Because people are engaged. People are enjoying that stuff. So they'll automatically tell their friends. Remember, people who enjoy stuff tell other stuff. So it's a win-win situation for Facebook. And it's a win-win situation how? You're liking that stuff, you're sharing that stuff, Facebook gets money from the advertisers for it. Voila, problem solved. So Facebook is able to do this social advertising because it has two teams. One is the technology team which creates all the programming stuff, and then there's the marketing team that creates new marketing, you know, packages that they sell to the advertisers. They say ये gold package or fala package और इतने पैसे का होगा आपका advertisement कितना हो. Together they're able to create this. So let's move on to the third challenge that Facebook is able to handle, which is the business and the ecosystem. Now Facebook का ecosystem is a huge source of economic value. How so? In US, in the European economy के ऊपर इसका 15 बिलियन का पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट है. इन द US इसका इम्पैक्ट 12 से 16 बिलियन, ये 2011 और 12 के नंबर्स हैं. ह्यूज नंबर्स. प्लस दूसरी चीज़, फेसबुक का जो इकोसिस्टम है वो दो चीज़ों के ऊपर लेवल्स हैं उसके डिपेंडेंसी. एक वो कंपनीज दैट कंट्रीब्यूट दैट आर कंट्रीब्यूटेड टू बिकॉज ऑफ फेसबुक, यू नो, उनकी वैल्यू के अंदर एडिशन कर रहा है फेसबुक. वो कौन है? वो थर्ड पार्टी डेवलपर्स जिनकी ऐप्स फेसबुक पे चल रही हैं. वो और भी जगहों पे चलती हैं लेकिन फेसबुक पे भी चल रही हैं. वो सारी कंपनीज जो फेसबुक को एज अ ब्रांड कम्युनिकेशन प्लेटफॉर्म यूज़ कर रही हैं. ऐसा नहीं कि उनकी ब्रांडिंग और जगह नहीं होती, लेकिन वहाँ पर से Facebook is adding value to them because they're able to reach 1.8 billion people. And the advertising agencies जो और भी जगहों पर एडवर्टाइजिंग करती हैं, गूगल के प्लेटफॉर्म्स के थ्रू करती हैं और बिलबोर्ड के थ्रू करती हैं, टीवी के थ्रू करती हैं, बट देर ऑल्सो डूइंग इट थ्रू फेसबुक. तो दे आर बीइंग गिवन मोर वैल्यू बिकॉज ऑफ फेसबुक. और एक दूसरी साइड है उसकी, वो कंपनी जो बगैर फेसबुक के एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं कर सकती. वो कौन? वो कंपनी जो फेसबुक की डेटा को की एनालिटिक्स प्रोवाइड करती हैं टू एडवर्टाइजर्स टू कंपनीज कि कितने लोग ने कितने पेजेस को लाइक किया, कितने को शेयर किया. इसमें रिसेंटली गूगल भी शामिल हो गया बिकॉज नाउ इवन गूगल एनालिटिक्स वर्क्स विद फेसबुक. सो but Google Analytics can exist without Facebook because it already is. It's a very strong platform. But I'm just giving you an idea. So Facebook Analytics providers that cannot exist क्योंकि वो करी Facebook के लिए लाए, उसके अलावा कोई बिजनेस नहीं है. That's all they do. Number two, the social marketing agencies. वो जो social networking के ही ऊपर फोकस करती हैं सिर्फ, not in general but specifically just social networking. और ऐसी कंपनीज अब बढ़ गई हैं पाकिस्तान because ever since the big ban on the billboards. So and Facebook games and game developers जो सिर्फ Facebook के games develop करते हैं, they won't exist without Facebook. याद रखिएगा किसी भी प्लेटफॉर्म के सक्सेस के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है दैट यू आर एबल टू नॉट ओनली जस्ट cater for consumers but for the other people, the suppliers. And who are the suppliers? The developers. The developers, the programmers, not only आपके अपने हैं, उनकी बात नहीं हो रही, वो तो आपके अपने हैं, वो जो थर्ड पार्टी डेवलपर्स हैं. सोचिए थोड़ी देर के लिए, मिलियंस ऑफ ऐप्स हैं गूगल प्ले स्टोर पे, मिलियंस ऑफ ऐप हैं एप्पल के ऐप स्टोर पे. यू रियली थिंक दैट एप्पल मेक्स देम और गूगल मेक्स देम ऑल? ऑफ कोर्स नॉट. एक स्टैटिस्टिक के मुताबिक it would take Apple over 78 years to create all the thousands and thousands of apps that are available on its app store. It's impossible. So you need to create the right kind of environment. You could, for the developers, the tools, the comfort and the support so that they can make stuff for you. Now, Facebook के ecosystem का जो heart है वो Facebook का itself platform है. आप लोग अक्सर confuse होते हैं ना कि platform क्या है, ecosystem क्या. Platform is like Facebook. Facebook is a platform that works on the overall, it's part of the overall Facebook ecosystem. So हम कहते हैं Google Search is the Google Search platform that is part of the larger Google ecosystem, which includes the other platform which is Android. So Facebook was always created keeping this in mind. It was always going to be a platform. And where did Zuckerberg get that idea? As I already mentioned, from his other mentor, who was Bill Gates, who always said you need to create a platform. And we know how powerful Microsoft's ecosystem is. How high? Because you've got the MS Office platform, you've got the Microsoft Windows platform, you've got the Bing, you've got their entire PC design that they worked with IBM, right? That's exactly what it is. So in 8 years, Facebook has become one of the world's largest platforms. It has over 9 million plus apps, and this is again old statistics. Millions of apps. Okay, although casual gaming, but there more people play games on and have access to different games on Facebook than they do on Xbox and PlayStation and V and Game Boy's networks. Again, याद रखिएगा उन सब पे जो गेम्स हैं वो तो considered mainstream games as opposed to these तफरी वाले sometime playing game, but still numbers matter. फेसबुक का प्लेटफॉर्म जो है वो 3 मेन टूल्स के थ्रू बना है. एक ओपन ग्राफ ऐप्स है, वो ऐप्स जो आपकी टाइमलाइन के अंदर चलती है, जो आपके डेटा को इस्तेमाल करती हैं और आपके फेसबुक के डेटा को ही इस्तेमाल कर फेसबुक पे चलती हैं. दूसरी कैनवस ऐप्स हैं, वो ऐप्स जो फेसबुक के ट्रेडिशनल ऐप्स है जो फेसबुक के अंदर बनाई जाती है चलती हैं. पहली वाली आपकी टाइमलाइन के अंदर आती हैं जो थर्ड पार्टी ऐप्स का कंटेंट लेकर आती है। दूसरी केस के अंदर कैनवस ऐप्स के केस के अंदर दोज आर लाइक द गेम्स दैट यू प्ले, जो जिंगा वगैरह बनाते हैं, फार्म बिल हो गया, सिटी बिल हो गया, क्लैश ऑफ क्लैंस दैट बीइंग प्लेड ऑन फेसबुक. Then there are the social plugins like the like button and the Facebook connect button and all that. So these three are using the power of this huge social media network to give you access. So how does Facebook have the stance there? It has openness and it has control. How so open? Because it allows after you use permission, it allows partners to work with them, and control because Facebook doesn't let its partner take complete control. It doesn't let its partners and developers gain access to users data or misuse it in any way. And if they try to do it, they blacklist and they throw them out. Okay, so this is important. Of course, screw ups hote hain, bad apps get through. For instance, आप लोग जो misuse कर रहे होते हैं apps that tell you who's looked at your profile. Remember, Facebook has very strictly said there is no such thing as, there is no such app that can do that. And in fact, they even have a help page that actually tells you precisely this. So Facebook Credits is an example for this. They developed this tool as a tool for developers so that they can make the payments processes easily. But Facebook takes about 30% from this as a profit. So that's a platform that people use. They take a 30% cut from it. Okay, and it makes its developer pay through exactly that. Zynga is another example कि जो कि अपनी games जिनकी Facebook के through आ रही होती हैं और mainly use हो रही होती है. So let's look at Zynga now, a case study that was born because of Facebook's ecosystem. So Zynga has been a social game producer for Facebook specifically. So they launched in 2007, and in 2009 tak Zynga then became partners with Facebook for the next 5 years. Zynga raised about $1 billion in IPO and was the biggest IPO since Google's, which was at a 7 billion valuation, so huge number. And in 2011, and in 2011 के end में, however, Zynga realized कि अगर हम सिर्फ Facebook पर rely करते, they'll be back. So they even launched themselves on Google Plus. But remember that in 2011, Zynga was earning over 95% of its revenue just from Facebook. And Facebook के perspective से Facebook के total revenue का 12% सिर्फ Zynga के games की वजह से. Repeat again, Zynga is the company that created Cityville, Farmville, and Mafia Wars and all the games that you play that are very popular on Facebook. So Zynga launched its own web platform in 2012. They have their own website now. Zynga went through a lot of financial problems. So if you go to zynga.com now, you'll notice that they have their own gaming platform other than that of Facebook. Because obviously reliability on just one service is a bad idea. That's the rule number one that you learn in business. So Facebook's ecosystem is outsourced growth. This is because of organic growth. Why? Because these APIs are being given to these developers to create their own stuff, while at the same time Facebook is actually hiring all of these companies. For instance, Govala, which is a company, which is a location-based advertising company. FriendFeed is another company that they bought. Several companies that they bought was because of they wanted to hire the technical expertise of this place. I already talked about Oculus Rift. I already told you about WhatsApp. I already told you about several others. Only recently they even bought a lot of machine learning companies, because that is the key. So not only are they growing internally by giving access to its APIs to its developers, they're also externally growing by acquiring new companies, and along with which come new talent and new ideas. So let's move on to the next challenge to handle, and that's disruption. And as the image for it shows on slide number 60, it's about the disruption of the cell phone. Now, smartphone penetration up to her world में बहुत ज़्यादा है, but these numbers are old. It says 50%. ठीक है, जबकि tablet की penetration is dropping. So Facebook had a critical challenge that if it did not expand itself back in 2007 जब smartphones आना start हुए थे into the cell phone industry, they would go away. And like any other business, it had an option. You either build the solution for this problem, you partner with someone, or you buy a company that's giving that solution and then make it part of yourself. So with all of its features, one would assume Facebook अपना ही OS क्यों नहीं बना ले, अपना ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बना ले, जैसे एंड्रॉइड है, जैसे iOS है, अपना क्यों नहीं बना ले. So it could easily become a mobile app, which is what it did. So let's see why it couldn't do the OS thing. So the problem was to become a company that would create a mobile operating system is a huge problem. If you remember, we've talked about the 5 forces model. The problem is that if it tried to create its own mobile operating system, it'll have to give a lot of time. These days, consumers expect both Android and iOS to come up with updates every single year, and it's becoming more and more difficult for both Google and Apple to be able to do that. Why? because dude, you can't make a lot of changes in what you've already done perfected. You notice that now users don't get impressed. There haven't been many changes in either of the operating system, not any major changes anymore. And background mein hoti hai, lekin still not enough aesthetic changes because you just can't, and it's very difficult. And Facebook will already has a lot of to do. It's got its core competencies, not operating systems or even mobile phones. So building a mobile phone operating system, for Facebook would be impossible because you just can't give enough time. Number two, they don't know this sector. मोबाइल फोन्स के अंदर आप और मैं समझते हैं कि मोबाइल ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम इट्स जस्ट अबाउट क्रिएटिंग एन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम. इट्स नॉट. You need to be able to deal with all the problems of mobile phone carriers. And what do I mean by that? The carriers are these companies that put up their logos, the AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, हमारे केस में अब आना स्टार्ट हो गए क्योंकि they play a huge role. They want their stuff to be in your phone, their apps to be in your phone. So they are not easy to deal with. And Google and Apple are both trying to get rid of it. Google has already created its own, mobile service that is working with other mobile service providers right now, which is called Project Fi. Apple's trying to do the same thing. It's trying to create its own, cellular service, so that they can get rid of all of these cell phone service providers and they can bypass them. Another reason that they're not able to create, Facebook is not able to create its own mobile operating system is because this industry is already very contested. Now, people keep on forgetting the numbers. 86.6% as of a few weeks ago, I checked it, it's now reaching 87%. Android is the dominant mobile operating system, 87% and rising approximately, while Apple is about 13 point something percent. Okay, and the remaining, everybody else, Sailfish, Firefox OS, Windows operating system, mobile, that's all, and BlackBerry and all, that's all barely 1%, even less than that. So Facebook के लिए ये replicate करना next to impossible है, because try and understand creating your own mobile operating system is not easy, especially in an industry के जहाँ पे Android is dominant at 87% and Apple is standing strong with its 13%, but has dropped this year severely in its market share. You can check it up on several websites, Reuters and IDC as well. So the thing is that these are old numbers here in this slides, which says 80% for Android. It is very difficult for it to be able to create this. So think about it. It's very difficult because then Facebook thought, chalo theek hai, let's think about making partnerships. So kya hua? Apple made a partnership with Twitter instead of Facebook. Okay, and in the Android's case, they talked to HTC and they were able to put up the button of Facebook directly on the cell phone, so आप उसको click करें तो Facebook खुल जाए. But how long will you continue to do that? This partnership won't work because, dude, next few phones, HTC Chacha and the HTC Salsa had these, but not the next ones. So creating an app on the mobile was there another option. So they created it, but even today, Facebook's app अब तो बहुत बेहतर है. पहले was crap. If you look at this picture on slide number 66, that's what it demonstrates. The web version was still superior and still is to the mobile version. Try it. The mobile app on Facebook is considered the worst when it comes to battery performance and cell performance on Android and iOS both. Take any online article which talks about the worst apps to use and you'll see Facebook on the top. Most used app, Facebook on the top. So the problem is the app wasn't as good, although we made it a lot better, but still it's not very optimized. So another thing was that Facebook's, on the mobile, or there were a lot of other apps that were already providing the same kind of service that Facebook was providing. So Facebook credits hai, so there is in-app purchases in Apple and Android. Check-ins hai, so there was the Foursquare service. Newsfeed hai, so there's a lot of news, website, services like Newsstand, Flipboard, Feedly, so many others. Photos hai, बाद में खैर, of course, Facebook ने acquire कर लिया Instagram को, but there are lots of other, picture uploading web services, Google Photos and Snapchat and so many other places. So the thing was that creating apps was not going to be the solution either. So, Facebook tried to buy Instagram, which it did, which is what it discussed, to get into the photo entry area. And it did, it actually was able to succeed. Still, that won't work because it cost them $1 billion. If it continued to do that, there'll be other apps that'll keep on popping up because वो तो app developers तो छोटे-छोटे and they'll keep on making us stuff. That's what they did. Facebook का Facebook है, Facebook Messenger है, ताकि chatting हो सकते है, Instagram के through photo sharing हो सके, but there are lots of other stuff that's happening. Facebook Messenger ने try करने की है, वीडियो और voice chatting डाली उन्होंने, WhatsApp के अंदर डाली उन्होंने, same as उन्होंने Facebook Live डालने की कोशिश की है, trying to capture on the Snapchat thing, but you can't continue with that because there'll always be new apps coming up. So what did Facebook realize? Facebook realized the building strategy doesn't work. The partnership strategy doesn't work. Neither does the buy strategy. So what do? What are you left with? Number four, you innovate. You create a new solution to this entire problem, like the blue ocean strategy. And what is that? Facebook is now going to use all of this data that they come in from all of their apps, and they realized, dude, this is it. We need to find the way around this. So instead of going through all of these cell phone services, operating systems and cell phone services providers, we need to go around it. We need to access the apps directly because that's what people are using. So Facebook then in 2012 in May launched its main weapon, which was the Facebook App Center. What is the Facebook App Center? Facebook App Center is basically this cross device platform on Facebook where if you go and you actually click on an app, let's say if you're using an Android device, you actually end up on the Play Store and are able to download that app. If you're using an iOS device, you click on an app on the Facebook App Center, you end up on the iOS page of that app. And that's the key. Why? Because this is how you'll be able to actually find new apps, because now suddenly Facebook App Center is in between and is now allowing people to find out new apps. And through this, users are able to discover new apps. And on the other hand, these app developers are able to promote and advertise their apps on the world's largest platform, which is the 1.8 billion platform of Facebook users. And that's what it does. So now not only is it advertising other stuff, you are now able to advertise entire apps. So you see a lot of app suggestions as sponsored stories on Facebook. So not only this, the same ideas, all the stuff that was successful on the web, such as the sponsored stories, the like buttons, the comments, all of that is now available on mobile phones. So suddenly everyone is able to use this. So think about it. The proof of its success is that the 7 of the top iOS apps and the 8 top apps on Android are all of those apps that are also being promoted through Facebook. Why? Because that's the place to promote. So think about this. Why do people use this? People use this because the cost of promoting the top 5 apps on iOS in France is about 10,000 to 30,000 US dollars. In the US, this price is over 50,000 US dollars. While on the other hand, through App Center, through Facebook App Center, you could do it at much lesser of the cost compared to iOS, which only has Apple creating its devices. Android is more difficult to promote through because there are so many companies who make their phones with Android. So Facebook is this unified platform where you could promote your Android app. So no matter what device people come from, they can click on it and they open it up. Plus, the App Center uses the same formula that Amazon does on their marketplaces. Also, it gives you the rating score, which shows the ratings for an app by Facebook users, and it gives third-party app providers another platform to integrate with Facebook. It generates revenue, another revenue stream for Facebook, because it's advertisement of apps, and those companies have a lot of money to pay these Facebook, and it increases the amount of overall Facebook apps, right? So that is beneficial to Facebook in all sorts of ways. Now let's look at what Facebook will become in the new age, what it should focus on. And it's already focusing on this. Facebook will now try and create an actual network, because Facebook has the same kind of, niche that it fills like a telephone company. It's basically maintaining a network and giving people an identity and providing a communication to that. For Facebook does. Facebook has devices that people are accessing it through. It has a lot of people coming in from cell phones, 1.66 billion to be precise. It reaches over 1.8 billion people across the globe, over half the internet population. It allows people to interact in all sorts of ways, by commenting, by talking, by chatting, by stuff. It allows, and this is its greatest asset, the real-time data collection and analytics of users, which is something not even today's cell phone services are able to do. So Facebook's entire network is built over the infrastructure created by telephone companies. So where telephone companies have wires and pipes and networks, Facebook has a social graph. So it makes perfect sense to be able to monetize this whole thing. So what Facebook can do is that they can monetize in a very different way. While a regular telephone company is only able to make money of average revenue per user businesses के basis के ऊपर, which is usually flat. They cannot have different products. It's all cell phone service for everybody, different plans, yes, but it's the same service for everybody. But Facebook can able to do it differently. Its users access it for free. The advertisers, where Facebook takes 30% of the cut, the advertisers advertise through the CPC CPM model, and maybe later on they could actually charge for the amount of data used. They try and did the same thing in internet.org, which by the way caused a lot of problems to them through because of net neutrality. Again, you should go read about it. It's a separate topic altogether. Unfortunately, we don't have time in this course. Otherwise, we would have covered this. This is an ethical, legal issue with respect to the internet. So Facebook's relationship with its users and its partners and its advertisers is all different, and that's what it can monetize on. So what are these, according to this particular case study, the 5 challenges that Facebook have to handle? So challenge number 1 will be to able to be is the challenge to protect its users. So right now it is reaching 1.8 billion users, and they share their personal data through Facebook. So Facebook has to create guidelines for developers so that they don't misuse the data of these users when they gain access to the social graph, and they need to be told and they need to be monitored by Facebook about this. And how will it do it? As a big company now, it was just a startup then. As a big company now, it has to be very responsible. It has to make sure that developers don't misuse people's data. And if those developers do, they need to blacklist them, throw them out. Challenge number 2 will be including Facebook everywhere. Facebook have to be present everywhere. It's already doing this by creating the messenger, by owning WhatsApp, by creating the social VR. Facebook is everywhere. Every time you click on an article, it shows the like button, the share button, the comment button. It's everywhere. Even its rivals are connected to it in one form or another. Why? Because that's the key. It has to be part of your conversation all the time. The more you use it, the more it is involved in everything you do online, the more Facebook gains from it. So it's already doing that right now. Whether it be buying and selling stuff, whether it be planning an event, whether it be sharing about your new project, everything. So Facebook has to be there everywhere. So Facebook has to sell the idea of its new social advertising. It's already catching on, but Facebook needs to do it even more. It needs to talk about it more. Facebook is doing it through its advertising teams and its Facebook advertising platform and its studio, but it needs to do this more. It needs to actually look at social metrics. It has to give statistics and numbers to prove this, like Google does. If it doesn't, because they look at numbers. जितने advertiser को वो ये नहीं देख रहा कितनी भाषण कर रहे हैं, कितने सब्सक्राइब के advertising platform. They have to be shown numbers. कितना work करता है, and Facebook is failing on this. People who actually use Facebook advertising have realized that there are still flaws. It's not able to clearly show how effective it is. Not right now, at least. Challenge number 4 that Facebook will have to do is to distribute its data. Facebook will already has gigantic amounts of data. It has to utilize this. It has to use big data, not just Facebook's Connect, not just Facebook's Like, not just OpenGraph 2.0, but more. It has to allow more real-time targeting for advertising. It has to allow advertisers to advertise here. It has to and use all this information that they have as targeting metrics rather than just be a platform, so that they can earn even more money. So once it's able to master all these challenges, Facebook will come up as a huge, powerful startup. It will be able to have this connect button all over the world with all of the pages and every other service, and through that people will be able to target the right kind of product with the right kind of price and the right amount of moment of time through Facebook. Advertising networks will be able to create the right kind of ad and show it at the right place at the right moment to the right group of people, and will be able to get the right ROI from it. And apps and websites will be able to make the right kind of offers through the Facebook platform to the billions of people who will be using it, and the right kind of value proposition, because you need to be sure that your ad shows up, or your product shows up, or your sponsored story shows up, or your engaging content shows up, or to the right kind of people and at the right moment, because the timing is important. Remember, we already discussed that. So it will end up in giving more conversion to such websites. And again, the Metcalfe's law will kick in. The more people use it, the more advantageous it becomes, the more useful it becomes. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the case study on Facebook. I hope you'll find this extremely useful. Make sure that you go through this audio, and if there's anything that you don't understand, that you Google it until you are able to understand it. Remember the Feynman technique. Read something, understand something, simplify it, teach it to someone who doesn't know this, like a child or someone who's not educated about this. And if you're able to teach them, you're able then you know, really know it, not just the names of things, but the actual meaning of those things. Thank you very much.